Today on the Four Horsemen, we're going to be telling some crazy esports stories. I hope this is the start of a series where we can actually get some OG guests on, because I feel like we're at a point in esports now where we can safely tell stories of 10 to 20 years ago without burning bridges. There's a lot of interesting people who you may have heard of who no longer work in esports, who are bad events.
So
I feel like this is a good time.
Statute of limitations on these stories.
Yeah, well, you know how it goes. Like now there's a bunch of stories, of stuff that happened that nobody's going to get mad about anymore.
Also, we didn't used to have NDAs back in the day, which is even better, actually.
That's true. Nobody knew what that was.
But there's also a lot of people who are not like actively in esports anymore who would definitely be willing to come on and tell like the really crazy stories. So I think that'd be fun, and also helps you understand a bit of esports history, tournaments that no longer exist, all that kind of stuff as well. So I think this will be fun. It's just going to be the three of us today, though. And however, we're not going to start with stories. So if you want to hear stories and you're here for that, please go to the timestamp where the stories begin, because there has actually been a really big piece of esports news that dropped today. And we are probably going to do a whole episode on this, but I think it's good to touch on it right now because it affects the international, which is starting. Actually, by the time this episode is released, it might have already started, frankly. But we can't really get a guest on right now because everybody's already at the international when we're recording this. And also, frankly, I think it's probably better to give this one some time to see where the chips fall and how it affects TI, as well as if there's additional information that comes out. But basically, I'll have Richard explain this. But the news that came out today was a player on the Chinese team LGD. He is not Chinese. He is Peruvian. His name is TaiLung.
Like Kung Fu Panda, the great movie.
Yes, he's a player who's only 17 years old, born in 2009, the year I graduated college, which doesn't make me feel old at all. He's 17 years old, and he is one of the up-and-coming stars of Dota. And LGD put out a kind of cryptic announcement today saying that he has been banned due to integrity issues, both from the International 2026, so the one that is about to occur as we record this show, as well as PGL has separately announced, when PGL is one of the major tournament circuits in Dota, probably the most important tournament circuit in Dota right now. And they have announced that he is banned forever from PGL events at the age of 17. Will Valve ban him from future TIs? We don't know. Is he going to be banned from other circuits? Possibly. I imagine we're going to get more news by the time we kind of figure this out and do a full show on it. But I just want to touch on this right now up front. So, Richard, you want to give us some background on this Peruvian player and why this is so huge?
I'll do you one better. We've already covered it on the Last Free Nation podcasting network. Caps did a great job of this because it goes back to July 15th, I think it was, when the Esports Integrity Commission, they put an announcement out that they had provisionally suspended two players, Vintage and Darkmago, also from that region. And that was based on, suspicious activity, let's say, that would lead you to believe that there was some match fixing and going on. And it's certainly a region that's had its fair share of allegations, and it's got problems that, we can talk about in a little bit. But for context, for those who don't follow Dota, TaiLung is widely regarded as like, I don't want to say the best young prodigy. I don't want to necessarily overhype him, especially in light of what's happened. But for context, when we were doing a PGL event, we were asking other mid laners who they thought was the best mid laner. And some of the best mid laners in the world going, it's this kid, it's TaiLung.
Is this comparable then if people are older Dota fans, if like Sumail in the first year was just immediately match fix banned or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I want to say, that would be a good analog. I mean, Sumail obviously was a prodigious talent right from the get-go. And everybody knew he was going to be a great player. And TaiLung he's got some idiosyncrasies. One of the best segments I think we've ever done on a PGL desk revolves around TaiLung, and that is that he loves to play Viper, which is a very, it's a hero that you have to sort of pick in certain circumstances. He considers himself to be a Viper specialist and will pick it in anything. And we were literally watching this series unfold where this is a bad Viper game. Oh, he's took Viper. So he lost in the opening on a Viper. We said, right, he won't pick the Viper this time. He picked it again. He dominated with the Viper. Then we were like, okay, well, now what do we do? Maybe put it to bed. And he just kept picking this particular player. And the coach had to come out and go, it's not me. We just say to him, what do you want to play? So think about that within a broader context. This kid is so good that even when he's picking a hero, everyone on his team and his coach thinks is bad. They let him do it. And like I say, phenomenally talented mechanically. There was people will have seen this. There was like a really good, he had a 1v1 tournament thing, and he did this thing with Shadow Fiend where he took tranquil boots, so he would get the benefit of the healing, but tranquil boots don't heal you every time you're hit. And what he was doing was he was dropping the boots just as he was about to get hit, then picking them up. So he would get it wouldn't trigger.
It's obviously insanely hard to do.
Yeah. But this kid is fire. Like, I mean, I'm just processing this, by the way. Literally about 2 hours before we hit record on this episode, I was having a look at this and be like, wow, this is fucking sad. Because this kid is unbelievably talented. Just got picked up to LGD. You have to understand what a big deal that is, by the way. Like a Peruvian player, being propelled into, I know LGD are this organization that they've had Chinese players, they've got a South American squad right now, but to just be picked up by LGD, that size of sponsor is unbelievable. And there he's playing with, people like, would have been playing with people like Yuma, people like Whisper, KJ, King Jungle, like, that is the all-star South American fucking lineup. And he's going to be the mid laner for them. And now it's all gone away. And it's really fucking sad. And it's happened just before TI. I mean, for context, right, I am a fan of this kid. And I had him in my fantasy pick. Like, this is no bullshit. My fantasy for Dota, you have to pick a mid lane. I was like, it's fucking TaiLung all day. Like, this is going to be his breakout tournament. And now it looks like at 17, his career is over. I don't know in the current context whether or not there's a way back for him, because this has been, so he's banned from this TI. We're going to wait and see if it's all future TI. Valve have in the past shown clemency and have done as well for VAC ban players in CS. So there's a chance it might not be permanent. It might just be a temporary kind of ban. PGL have said he's off the PGL circuit. I imagine all the others are going to follow and fall in line. So the question is, is he ever allowed to come back? Because he is so young. And, a lot of people will probably draw, if you're a CS fan, you might look at this like an iBuyPower Brax kind of thing, where we've lost a talent so ridiculously young, we're not going to know what they could have achieved.
But obviously, the iBuyPower scandal, the ban was pretty egregious considering the level of the match fixing, the crime. And, technically, we don't know what, TaiLung did. It's a very vague integrity issue statement right now. But I can imagine that an organization like PGL, which clearly understands punishments in other games, considering they're involved in a variety of different circuits, including Counter-Strike, I doubt they would make a lifetime ban unless this was really quite bad. That seems like a very big step to take, and it feels like out of all out of all tournament organizers, surely they would be aware of the history of things and would take that into account before issuing a lifetime ban.
Well, it's no secret to anybody. CS has its problems with match fixing. Obviously, I work in Dota as well, and I've done journalism in Dota, and I've covered this and that. I would say Dota is a much more corrupted game than CS, and it has, unfortunately, much more widespread match fixing. And a lot of this is predicated on, first of all, the regions where the game is popular. They're unbelievably hard to police. It's Russia, it's China, it's South America. It's like they're the top three, right? They're the top three of don't give a fuck what you have to say in the West about what we do. Who are sick again? So they don't care. And then on top of that, it's not just that these people don't give a fuck. It's that these people are very often living in an economic reality that is very different to what a professional Western esports star is used to. You can't have match fixing without poverty, essentially. And what do I mean by that? I mean, well, I'm not saying these guys are I'm not saying TaiLung's out on the streets with a fucking bowl in his hand, begging for change. I'm saying that if you do something 8 to 12 hours a day and you're one of the best at it, but you just happen to be in a region where your salary might be $1,000 a month, very good commensurate to where you live, but not very good in global terms. You have to go to a world event where you're competing against someone that might be on 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000. Well, you're ripe for corruptibility. You're ripe to get got. Some guy's going to come to you and go, look, you're only making $1,000 a month. Do you want to make some more on the side? And the thing with Dota as well is it's so ripe for spot fixing. It's one of the easiest games to do spot fixing in. There's so much going on. First courier kill. I can feed my courier to somebody. First blood. I can pretty much guarantee I die first in a game of Dota. As long as my other teammates aren't fucking shit.
By the way, this is one problem always. If people aren't super familiar with match fixing, I don't expect you to be. If you're a normal person, it's not something you might have ever looked into. The main problem with the paradigm is everyone still thinks of the most basic 101 match fixing of, I'm the favorite. Yes. I intentionally lose the whole game and maybe I even directly bet on it. Whereas as you're saying, I can just tell people the obvious analog here is sports. And in football, it's long, you'd have to go back probably 70 years to find someone actually fixing the match. You do the spot fix like you're saying, you do the first throw in or you kick the ball
Southampton
out.
in the 90s quite famously.
You just do something where it's easy to control. But I think the cleverest part about those spot fixes is they don't actually require you, aside from essentially a moment, to be unprofessional. Otherwise, you can still win the game. You can still try your best. You're not fucking over your teammate. You just actually create something that you could argue the only person who gets fucked over is the bettors and the betting company. Hence why the betting companies themselves tend to be the main people who police this shit.
Yes, correct. And so look, in this instance, we don't know what it is that he's done. Safe to say that the fact that it's happened, within a month of more people in that region being banned, it certainly looks like there was a collusion element going on rather than it just being coincidentally a bunch of South Americans decided to match fix. And unfortunately, with Dota as well, one of the things you have to be mindful of is I can fix elements of a game with while I'm on a team, and my 4 teammates cannot know about it.
Yes.
And it's certainly a lot easier to cloak what you're doing in a game of Dota. Well, just in any MOBA, but it's certainly easier to cloak what I'm doing in Dota than it is in CS, for instance. And we've seen this as well. There was a hilarious front page Reddit clip where some shit team had basically, a guy was trying to fix the game, and clearly his team weren't in on it, and they were playing and winning, and he was disconnecting, and he was trying to do everything to get the bet cancelled, essentially, with the bookies, because it was clear that he wasn't even able to throw the game properly. So, I mean, it's a murky world. And it's really fucked up because LGD committing to South America, assembling the South American, I would call it the South American super team, looking at the players that are on there. You can make the argument about Parker, but he's proven time and time again he's not really fit to be on a team. He needs to play a single player game. But everyone else, unfortunately, now is faced with going into a tournament having lost not just a mid laner, but one of the most talented young mid laners in the world. It's like an unbelievable tragedy for the sport. And no doubt when we find out what it is he's done, it's gonna be something really cringe and obvious, and it's actually not even gonna be for a lot of money. Think about how much money, even now, when everyone complains about TI and says TI shit. Think about how much money you would have made.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's this is what I mean. Short-term gains, long-term losses, guys. Like, you gotta fucking think about this. But yeah, I'm genuinely devastated. I'm genuinely devastated.
One thing I don't want to hear, because I've seen this happen a million fucking times, that always ages badly, is when stupid idiots go, hey, of course in my esport that would never happen. Like, shout out to all those people who said the Saudis would never be involved with League of Legends or betting or anything. They're all going to be eventually. So similarly, right, I already know that fucking Riot Games League Valorant dickheads are going to go, that wouldn't happen in my game. Sean Gares literally did a video like a year ago where he basically made it quite clear that there was like blatant, like, decently high-level match fixing going on in Valorant. And all I'll say is this. He then conveniently dropped the story, doesn't mention it, took a job elsewhere in the industry, and at the time continued to actually work more events with Riot. And basically, that was one of those ones where, behind the scenes, it was implied you just couldn't get that over the line. Riot would not play a ball. In fact, it even had crazy implications, implying things like that, guess what? That wasn't a fucking paranoid schizo story. Actually, maybe they do use the kernel-level anti-cheat to literally read what you are saying on your PC, including monitoring that exact situation where they did the nightmare fucking shout out to the episode of LFN foreplay. What was it? The conversation level shit where it's like they actually were just finding out like what was being said about that story to suppress it. And that story, again, magically, we just have to pretend that never happened. So that was at the high level of Valorant. In League of Legends, even though it's upset people whenever I've said this, because unfortunately we have some people in the West who are experts about Chinese League of Legends, the game, and they know the scene. They just didn't often know behind the scenes in Chinese League of Legends. Also, I've heard in the early days of Korean, there was some match fixing that happened in those leagues. I would even say there are ones where you could just guess from the outside because they used to just be absurd track records of unbeatable teams losing only the random games to the team that doesn't matter, and then continue.
When I was casting LCK, I mean, there was the famous like match fixing scandal with Promise, and like that actually came to light, but that was a minor team.
Yep.
I mean, many of us who are there are convinced that there was match fixing, but by convinced I mean we know. I just can't prove it. That there was match fixing among much higher level teams that resulted in some very strange matches, and that were inexplicable, by the way. And these people got away with it, and the Korean press knew about it and suppressed it because the Korean press, what they will tell you is that. So first off, there's a problem with Korean media, which is that they're even if you tell the truth. You can still be sued for defamation in Korea. So
we got that here in the UK, funnily enough.
We have that in the UK, sadly.
I mean, it's a huge issue in Korean politics as well, with reporting on political events. But also, the excuse was that we don't want to let this information out because after the match fixing scandal in Brood War that like collapsed the entire Brood War scene and caused a bunch of sponsor money to pull out, the press are actually afraid for their own jobs because a collapse in the scene would mean that they could get fired because there's nothing to cover anymore. So they were basically just saying like, well, we can't have this happen like it did in Brood War. So I
love the morality of that. I'm totally against and decry this terrible crime that was committed, which collapsed in esports. So I'm now going to take part in a cover-up and a conspiracy of silence of another incident like that to not make an esport. Almost seems like you don't have any morality. You just go whichever way you're fucking
just tell you what happened. And like, people did a lot of research on this. They came out with some good information, but the information never got published. So
pretty soon, I'll tell you a low-level version of how people understand why this can't be done. Bro, Ashley Kang would never even have touched a third rail topic like that. But she got her ass shadow banned in the Korea just for like critiquing T1 in interviews with questions. If just asking too harsh a question can get you shadow realmed, can you imagine I'm going to break up in that future Hall of Fame players in League of Legends and be match fixing, and the league might actually be a sham in some. Yeah, that'd be insane. I mean, put it this way, I don't really give a fucking spoiler. I'm never going to live in Korea again. As I've even implied it before, think of the biggest org in Korea. It's implied they were involved with some of this stuff too. So yeah, people don't know how deep the rock goes in all sports. And by the way, it's obvious because think about it. The level that these people are on, especially for spot fixing, this is battled as when people stupidly throw the match. For spot fixing, the level of power and the thought of, one, maybe it doesn't matter to me because I'm going to win the game anyway. I think people can find all sorts of mental gymnastics for spot fixing. They wouldn't for throwing a match that would affect their teammates, would affect the tournament. I feel like people just don't think it's as big a deal. And then also, as you're saying, we're not talking about a sport where the average age is someone 28 years old and they have a family and they live in that city. We're talking about people sat on PCs who've played pro for a year and a half and they might be a teenager right now. And we're telling them, here's 20K a month. Also, if you throw this game, you get like 50K on the spot. Like, mate, what's that famous thing people try to argue now, even though I'm sort of against it? Like, your brain hasn't even fully, all the cortexes haven't developed until you're 25. We're making players the best player in the world at 17. Like, what do you think that guy's going to do?
Well,
they're going to be on some beyond George Best shit. They're going to be everything ridiculous and impulsive and doing everything. They're going to have no thought for the future.
And this is the problem with banning some of these people too, because if you are young and you have authority figures telling you to do this, and
exactly.
I know nothing about TaiLung's background, but Peru is, it's not the richest country. Let's put it that way. For all I know, TaiLung's like supporting his family. Maybe it's common even in Korea for players, to support their families. It's common in any sport. There's a reason why many people of lower socioeconomic status basically work themselves to the bone to get to professional sports because that's their way out, So they're much more desperate a lot of the time, right? Or they're much more motivated. Let's put it that way. And so, if there is a scary Peruvian organized criminal who is intimidating people around TaiLung, like, is it really his fault? Like, this is why these circumstances, and he's 17, like you said, it's, there could be very big extenuating circumstances.
Is also
here.
why, even though sadly, like Chinese match fixing ones almost never do come out in esports, I always tell people I do actually hold Westerners like I Buy Power in actually much, much lower esteem than even Chinese match fixers, because the difference is those were adults who weren't coerced by anyone, to my knowledge. They just did it of their own accord for their own greed because they thought, get away. Whereas I have heard many cases, which on the face of it is like this person match fixed, but then it's basically implied they were like coerced as a teenager by an authority figure, sometimes literally like their coach, a team manager, family member, whatever. Sometimes criminal elements are involved. And again, I think you have to consider the context in that regard. Like, it's one thing for me to throw a game, lol, in CS in a random league game, and I get $17,000 in skins, as opposed to like, there's a story Rich is told, like someone has a machine gun on someone and goes, you will throw this game. Those are two different
Or we'll get your family.
I think we can all appreciate those are very different levels of stakes that you're making the decision based on, even though certainly the crime might appear the same.
Yeah, I think probably what we'll end up finding out is this is just a very silly example of match fixing where the immediacy of the money has essentially obfuscated the common sense of, kid, you're going places. You don't need to do this. Yeah, there's definitely some players that will never hit a payday, right? And TaiLung was not one of them. He was obviously going to go to a big organization, get a good salary. I mean, I'll say this as well. Caps made this point, and I do urge anybody, if you're interested in this, go watch the Caps episode. I think he's done 2 episodes on it on this network. It's great stuff. But Dart McGo, he was getting a good salary as well. Like, Caps was really perplexed because he was like, I've heard their salaries are good. You don't even need to be doing this. And obviously, having made your way to LGD, obviously, look, this is just a brutal reality. If you're from a certain region and from a certain country, chances are you are going to get lowballed. But LGD, LGD's low ball is going to be a lot fucking higher than like a beast mode low ball or whatever it might be, regionally speaking. So I'm genuinely devastated because we've lost an unbelievable talent. But not only that, the timing of it completely subverts TI, which is, no matter what the Saudis want to tell you, it is the most important tournament. Prize pools be damned. You measure your success in the number of TI rings you've got. That still remains true, even with the reduced prize pool. And, I genuinely believe this LGD team could have done things, and TaiLung could have done things at this TI. And now, it's up in the air whether he'll ever compete at a TI again. So really sad stuff. And no doubt when we get to the full truth of the matter, it's going to be something really stupid. It's not even going to have been for a lot of money, guys.
It's not like an official pro match, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be,
because people are always thinking
it was some regional qualifier or a small land tournament, and it was an additional $500. It's always something.
Or he was a stand-in for a team, what was a mix or something. I know exactly what you mean, because I also feel like for the pro, if you're young and stupid and impulsive, that's also how you rationalise it. You go, well, I'm not doing it in my actual career. I'd never do it in the pro game, of course.
Yeah.
But in this analogy, the better just doesn't matter, mate. By the way, there was also a case I even forgot to mention, Monty, in League of Legends this year in China. In the LPL, in the first split of the year, Top Esports at the time didn't have Tian, legendary jungler that they now have. What they had was they had a they had like a young, inexperienced jungler and ADC. And the jungler, by the way, was doing pretty well, actually. And in the playoffs, they lost 2 series, 3-2 to JDG and Weibo. JDG was actually one of the top teams. And both these series were really winnable. And this player, who's a jungler called Nayu, was pretty good, actually. But here's the thing. This is the ultimate cover. Because he's a Chinese jungler, he was a bit coin flippy, Monty. One game it'd be awesome. One game he kind of run it down a bit. If you don't know about that, that's all the best Chinese junglers anyway, regardless of match fixing. And what happened was, right after getting eliminated, his own teammates basically outed that they think he match fixed because they even think he match fixed in those playoff games at the end to lose them, which is like the most noob way to match fix. And by the way, he was kicked off of this team after this because, as I say, his own team. And one of the craziest cases ever, because normally one thing that infuriates me about match fixers and cheaters is they take that shit to the grave with them. I've reached out to fucking Kaylee, the guy who got VAC banned when he was on Kenny S. He won't speak about it, even though he's never going to play CS again. He'll never be pro. And at this point, almost on some more, just you should just do it if I did it, mate. Like, let this be interesting. I've even said to him, you don't know. I could even frame this, by the way, in a way that almost like semi-redeems you. Like, we'll do this as a study in how people get drawn into this and what it does. But he wouldn't do it. Normally, right, the Nayu guy essentially, I believe, almost just copped to it as soon as he was accused by his own teammates. And after that, he was removed from the team and they brought back a legendary player. And now no one remembers it. Now it's all quickly faded into the past. That was this year. That happened this year.
Yeah.
In a top LBL team.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll say this as well, to your point. I don't understand why someone like Kaylee, who got VAC banned for using a type of cheat specifically to be smuggled into a LAN environment, right? It was specifically designed to be hidden. I had the same thing. I was like, hey, you want to come on, do an episode of the Richard Lewis Show? We'll do a podcast. We'll talk about it. Might be really good, actually. You can tell us how you did it. And he was going, well, I never used it at LAN. What? The point of the cheat is to use it at LAN. We've got you and other cheaters.
Because to me, think of The Wire. You're trying to make a guy turn state's evidence. Like, come on, you can be a part of getting the bigger, but they won't do it. I get they're so the jokes. They're so short-sighted. They won't also just tell. Even though in that case, that guy will never play again.
He maintained the jumping headshot. Was legit.
Yeah, he had a bunch of moments, mate. I mean, I told you, it's only after that, unfortunately, that some of his own teammates in later interviews said, I also think he did it at LANs and majors.
Yeah, so...
But then again, here's the problem. Who'd want to hear that someone could use cheats at a major that could flush out all the wrong people. You got, listen, homie, never had any evidence against you, just look dodgy. You got away with it now. The hard drives are all wiped. I've always told him at this point, mate, I have even told Flusher to, mate, in a weird, fucked up way. I just think of it like one of those heist movies. You got away with it. You know what? Fair enough, Neil McCauley. You got away with this one, mate.
Yeah, there was no way in growing Flusher's story, fortunately.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
But yeah, so sad days in Dota. No doubt we'll find out more in the coming weeks. And I'll just say this for benefit of the doubt. I certainly hope this isn't one of those instances where people have gone off half-cocked.
Well, that would be really scandalous.
Yeah, that would be more scandalous than the scandal. Yeah, so, but I mean, I'm guessing with PGL having issued the ban and LGD having said we're cutting the player, and there isn't a Valve statement yet. It's all breaking, as I said. It literally happened a couple of hours before we went live. So no way of ignoring it. I think this is one of the biggest stories. I mean, I think it is the biggest story of the year in esports potentially.
So we will be back probably to check in on this, hopefully with more information in a few weeks. And as Richard said, do go check out the Elephant Dota channel. You guys might not even know this because we've done a very bad job of telling people, but we actually do have a Valorant channel and a Dota channel and a Rainbow Six Siege channel, all with shows if you like those. And if you want more, there is an episode of All Chat called Dark Migo's Match Fixing Doesn't Make Sense on there. But I also want to do a special shout out to a video that they put up, which is actually an analysis video, which is called I Use Stats to Find the Greatest Dota 2 Mid Peak of All Time. And it was SVG working with the Wonder Cow. And even if you don't care about Dota, it is a really fucking cool video about sports analytics. And if you're going to check out TI, this will help you, I think, understand how like Dota stats work and talk about some of the player histories. But it is a fantastic video, guys. So definitely go check that one out as well. So the Dota guys doing some cool stuff. I mean, all the guys on all the channels doing some cool stuff. And we'll be, I know this is going to sound crazy given the three of us, but we're going to start doing some stuff in FGC soon too. So we're expanding. We actually have 16 shows on the network right now. We're about to launch a few.
That's cool.
More.
We're expanding outside esports as well.
Yeah, outside of esports.
If you ask me, we're expanding outside humanity. If you ask me, man, fuck those people. Whatever.
Our FGC show is actually really cool, and I think you guys, even if you are not actively looking at FGC stuff, this FGC show is a lot about OG like 90s fighting games and doing history of that as well. So even if you don't like FGC currently, we all have that nostalgia fighting game that we played in the 90s, and they're going back and like doing some historical deep dives on those too. So it is going to be a pretty cool show. I'm actually very excited for it. So check all that stuff out. We will be better, I promise, about saying what's going on in the network and shouting out cool stuff or big events that's happening. But obviously, like with the Dota TI coming up,
you're all fucking grown-ups out there in cyberspace. You can fucking find this stuff for yourself. It's not hard. You follow the channel, you like, you subscribe, you click the fucking bell. It tells you when it's up, right? You follow us on Twitter, you follow us on social media. No doubt Monty's got a fucking Instagram. He's that kind of vain cunt, isn't he? So he's probably got one of them.
I do, but I haven't updated in probably like a year and a half.
Some ultra complex meal like fucking Hannibal Lecter. So just follow all of that shit and you'll be fine. That's what I say.
Doing that thing they all do where they go, it's simple, just make it home yourself. Now here are 17 ingredients you don't have.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's just got some nutmeg. I've got a bit. I don't have any of those things, Monty. Shopping for that's harder than ordering it, bro.
It's even weirder for me because I'll use very obscure Asian ingredients.
There you go.
Like, of course, everybody has 12 kinds of soy sauce, right?
Yeah. This is 90-day aged smoked soy sauce. Like, fuck off, man.
I know. Meanwhile, they're sat eating a pot noodle as they're watching it like, I wish I had that. I wish I had that.
Anyway, so we got a bunch of cool stuff coming up. But we will do, I'm going to put out a call this week for more network announcements and shouting out all the Dota stuff. So it's a good time for it. Everybody knows AI content is extremely obnoxious, and you are never going to get AI content from us here at LFN. Everything you see is going to be the real, authentic voice and creative inspiration from our hosts. On the business end, LFN does use AI tools, and they have been transformative for our business, particularly in the way we work together. And nothing has been better than Notion, which is an AI workspace where your team's knowledge, projects, and agents all come together in one place. Teams using Notion move faster, cut friction and cost by consolidating tools, and stay aligned. And this has been really huge for us because Notion is what we use to organize all of our shows right now. And instead of having to do everything manually, which was really hard across 16 different shows, Notion and its AI tools have helped us really streamline the process of keeping track of everything that goes on with our business, from our ads to our scheduling. So what happens is we can use AI tools in Notion to actually bundle together the information for any given show. And what it does is then it pings a Discord channel on our production server. And so our hosts every week get a packet of data for that week with everything they need to know for the shows. We used to have to do all of this manually, which obviously created a lot of errors, especially as we started to grow and grow. And I think without Notion, we would be in deep trouble right now because we're planning to create even more shows. And what this means is that we actually can use more of the money that the company makes to give it to our hosts instead of paying for overhead. So that means, of course, you guys, when you support us, it actually goes to the hosts that you like and helps us also create tons of new content ideas and be more experimental because we have budgets to do that. So Notion has been really huge for us, and I would really encourage you guys to check it out. Learn more about how Notion can support your business at notion.com/Four Horsemen. That's FOURHORSEMEN, so horsemen plural. And that's all lowercase letters, notion.com/Four Horsemen to try Notion today. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show. So if you're curious at all, and I think you should be because you can use this to organize your personal life as well as your business, go to notion.com/Four Horsemen. Just use the link. You'll find it below as well. And that'll help support us. And we really do love Notion. So thank you to Notion for sponsoring our show. Anyway, that's the Dota news that you guys might have seen. Watch TI, it's coming up. It's the Dota event you watch. I watch it every year, even though I never understand anything that is happening.
Can I ask you a question then, Monty, if you do watch it every year?
Yeah.
How do you think it measures up in terms of broadcast to something like Worlds in League of Legends? Like your professional opinion, not your inherent biases.
Oh, well, I mean, I just like Riot, so but I would be biased against them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Put all of that to one side. Because, I mean, I think, for my personal opinion, I think overall, like, when, you know, I love, like, set design and theme and that kind of stuff that goes on TI. They usually have a great opening.
Oh yeah,
and you know, Slacks will be on stage, just, you know,
yeah. Look,
it.
I love the production of TI generally, especially like as you get towards the end of the tournament. It does feel very cramped in the early stages because you're dealing with like a million different streams, but it's a worthy price to pay because the format is a million times better than Worlds format. So like if you have to watch simultaneous streams or there's two games going on at the same time, and as a result the production value can't be quite so good, I will trade that every single time for the better format that TI always has. Like, I don't think you leave TI ever being like, I don't think the best team won this tournament. Whereas the number of times I've left Worlds thinking that is most of them.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, like Worlds is really hurt by the format. I also think one of the issues that I find with Riot in general is that they get really masturbatory about their own intellectual property. So they'll use Worlds to like have dancing K-pop Ari on stage. And as a sports fan, I really just don't care about that. And so what I will say about TI, look, no, if you want to do a musical performance that gets people amped up, and I think some of the musical performances, I especially like the one, the tournament where FBX won, where they did like all the holograms and stuff on the musical performance beforehand. But for me, Riot uses it too often to advertise like non-esports stuff, and it really takes away from the celebration of the players, which I have a problem with. So I will say with TI gets a little too nerdy at sometimes. It can be very dry. Their desks are very dry. But I prefer that because it actually feels like they care about esports, whereas sometimes I wonder at Worlds, like, is this even an esports tournament by the time we get to the finals?
I mean, look, I'm sorry, because I know this isn't the premise of the show, but I'll talk about this because I think this is interesting to talk about as well, and whether or not this is a good precedent, bad precedent, whether or not we would be hypocrites to call it either of those things. There was also another thing that happened in TI, and I'm like you, right? Like, I will not miss TI. In fact, I do secretly hold out hopes of maybe 90% of my brain tells me I'll never work one, right? I'm not retarded, like I know, like with everything, my history in Dota, it's highly unlikely I'll ever get to work one. But there's that little 10% that, it'd be fucking, that would be it. Like, it would be like, you can just go to your grave there. I'll have pretty much.
It is the best event ever in esports.
Yeah.
I always, by the way, I don't even claim not to have done this. I stole that famous phrase that Counter-Strike's nature should be the celebration of CS from watching Dota, because one thing I always thought was dope about TI was, right, in TI, when people get knocked out, they don't just go home. The pros just stay and watch the final and stuff. And they're like, because actually famous in the after parties where you make all the roster moves, isn't it? And I always
it also helps that the tournament's like less than 2 weeks long, so you can stay around.
No, but here's the difference. To contrast that in Counter-Strike, motherfuckers just went home when they got knocked out one team. Like, if the number one team got knocked out in the quarters,
this is one of the reasons why show matches in CS fucking suck. Because you would think, oh, well, we've got all the players that got knocked out to draw up. They're on a beach, mate. Go fuck yourself. That's
why
where
it was
their
all legends and
starts.
shit coming. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
So I always wanted that. That's one thing Dota nailed, is that, because especially in Dota at one point it was just the tournament every year, it actually felt like the whole Dota world stopped. Everyone watched like the World Cup, and you had this crazy vibe that I'm sorry you never get that with Worlds. You never got that with the CS major. They're just really cool tournaments where if the right teams make it, it's awesome. Like, the atmosphere of TI, I think, is unbeaten. And also, I'm sorry, as we will now all eventually one day admit, when eventually every esport does this, that format was the best and is probably the best ever discovered in the history of esports.
Yeah, I mean, look, I fucking love TI, and a lot of my. It's really weird because even when I wasn't as into Dota 2, I mean, I started playing probably when I unhooked myself from Heroes and Neweth. So, around about 2012-ish, I would say, probably my first game of Dota. But, I dipped in and out, and then with CS and work in other games, you would lose touch. But TI is always kind of like the North Star that brings you back to the space. And you're like, oh, even if you've been gone a whole year, this player's playing there, is he? Holy shit. Oh, what, they're in this region now? That's fucking crazy. Oh, my God. All of the cool talking points. And I love the way that the desks, they are a little bit stuffy. They are a little bit stiff. They take it super serious. All of the Dota talent want to be there. They fucking adore it. It's like, for them, like, if you and
it's ultra nerdy.
Yeah, if you and I don't get I don't know. I mean, obviously you don't. There's a
nerdy purity to Dota that remains, where it's been mostly burned out of like all the other big esports because they wanted it to be more professional and cater to the layperson, and like TI just doesn't do that. Yeah, which I appreciate about it. I do.
So what I wanted to bring up is, obviously one of the things that I've always kind of ridiculed Dota for is the broadcast talent. You've got to see it, bro. Especially now that I'm on the inside. Like, they define themselves by whether or not they get selected for TI. It's almost like being a player. The number of TIs you work as broadcast talent essentially informs your worth. I think that's a very unhealthy way to think, by the way. Like, I've had conversations with, various Dota talent and the anxiety that comes with it. And I'm like, bro, there are just like, I always take being asked as even back when I could theoretically work for Blast, for ESL, obviously can't do that now. I always took it as a blessing. Like, you just get the call and they go, hey, you want to work this major? Fuck yeah. Of course I do. You know, I'm not going to say no to a major. Let's do it. And, you know, I haven't done the most as a host probably, but I've done, in terms of the span, my longevity is pretty good, right? I'm still doing them now, right? You know, and my first one was 2014 for context. So I would never judge my self-worth or what I bring to the table as a broadcaster on whether or not I get picked. I've thrown my gauntlet down. I will not work with ESL. I will not work with the Saudi Arabian state. I'm not going to take money from them. And so as a result, I'm pretty fucking limited in the prestige events I can do. Never going to do a Cologne, you know? That's just life. You make choices. But in Dota, everyone, when TI comes rolling around, they're like, please. You know, like, they're all like, they spend a whole year thinking, shit, did I say something that could have upset Valve? Did I say something that could have upset PGL? Was that a bit too spicy an opinion? It's like, guys, you can't live like this. So anyway,
and that ridiculous thing where, let's just say, if you're already someone with a decent media suite and you hear early on you're not getting hired, you quickly run and do that campaign. Like, guys, I'd like to announce that I'm not being hired this time. I'd love to work the event. Now, can all my minions
exactly
please
where I'm
fly
going with this,
and immediately get me hired, because there's going to be a massive shitstorm because I, a legend of not being, which I'm totally fine. I respect Valve's decision. Will someone please rid me of this troublesome priest? And then magically those people sometimes get back in the event or just cause drama. You know, that's a classic one.
Yeah. I mean, look, I will just say this. So I was going to record an episode about this because I used to do a podcast called the Esports Gospel, which was basically designed to be like giving people kind of like, you know, cut through the bullshit, short digest about it. And then I stopped it because every week I was talking about Saudi Arabia. And then now I think what I'm going to do is I was going to repurpose the podcast on this topic and make it the Esports Gospel. How to actually handle yourself if you work in the industry, I think would be good to start telling people right now. Because one of the things, by the way, that tournament organizers fucking hate is if you do that fucking post, hey guys, just want to let all my fans know I'm not going to be working this event. That post. Fuck you for ever posting that post. Why is that a good idea? Your fans aren't dumb. They can see you're not hired when the talent announcement comes out. They know you're not there. They know you're not a surprise. Like, they're like picking it up. Like, is he on the other side of this thing? No, they know you're not working it. And guess what? If you sit there and say nothing, maybe you'll get a Reddit thread or a bunch of tweets. Wow, super sad that my favorite isn't working this event, right? You might get that. You might not. When you try and essentially invoke that, what you're saying to the TO that's made the decision to leave you out, you're an asshole for leaving me out. I want my fans to attack you for being an asshole and leaving me out. Well, I mean, look, that might not be true. You might not be doing that, but that's how tournament organizers see it. I'll tell you that firsthand. They hate that shit. Of course they hate that shit.
And by the way, you better be like triple A talent, because otherwise they will just like.
I mean, I'll give you an example.
There'll be some reprisals.
The all-time GOAT, the manipulator extraordinaire, D-Man.
The best.
The best at it, right? He fucking did that shit. He literally got a job with Riot when he was the leading, one half of the leading commentary duo with Joe Miller, and he did the old, bloody hell, if I don't get paid more money, right? As in, he was getting freelancer rates, so which were really good back then for him. But it wasn't, I work for Riot good. If I bloody don't get a 6-figure salary to talk about video games on the internet, I might have to go back to a real job that won't be 6 figures, and nor will be.
By the way, easiest bluff of all time. I know you're going to be at the car full warehouse. You mad fuck. I know. So, no one's taking that.
So you're going to work in a call center in the northeast of England, are you? All right, sound. Yeah, no problem. See ya. See how long before you...
It's the most toothless fucking threat ever.
You're going to start drinking whiskey at 9 a.m. and have a gun in your mouth by 12. So, okay, have a good time. But anyway, it worked, and Riot were like, fuck, you can imagine how Riot were feeling about this. Like, there was just endless Reddit threads. If D-Man quits, I will never listen to a League of Legends cast again. Think about Joe Miller and D-Man. Joe Miller, one of the most ruthless cunts in esports history, by the way. Do you think about their anime-like relationship?
By the way, guys, behind the scenes, Joe Miller is a whole different animal.
I mean, close to the whole premise of this episode. I've tried to turn it into a Dota episode because I've got no. I'm out. Okay. I don't want to tell the same 50 stories that I've told 50 million times. But no doubt that. Put a pin in that one, Monty. We'll tell stories about ruthless Joe Miller on this episode.
Yeah,
that seems he works in finance now, hilariously, considering he was the guy that would tell you, the payment system doesn't work again. But anyway,
dude, the number of times Joe Miller told me that they changed accounting systems, I was like, "What's going on over there at ESL? Do we need a new accounting system every 6 months?"
Yep, new accounting.
Put it this way, I'll give what was one of my better jokes, which was when friends of mine would work at ESL. Let's just say maybe some of them still do, and this might still be a minor thing, but back then it was egregious. The ones who did like all the events, because they knew that like, well, fuck, if I complain now, then they might not hire me for the next event. So I've got to just do the next event, knowing I'll get paid sort of 2 events later. And if they ever go bankrupt, I'm fucked. I'll miss 2 events, but whatever. I'm eventually going to get the money. I just get it 3 months, 6 months, 12. Depends on which person you are on the hierarchy. Obviously, they're still beating a bare ball, right? I'm a big fan of the Mamet film, The Spanish Prisoner, right? Where basically this happens, where I used to joke with them because one of them kept doing so many emails where he'd been told we've changed our account system, we changed the way the forms are done, we changed actually who you email for, and essentially everything was. I always think of it this way: it's like someone in an office at 4:59 p.m. on a Friday going, "Do I want to resolve this issue, or do I want to just send another email and push it to Monday?" And essentially, they always push it to Monday, or they send the extra email and make it. I need to just check another piece of details. Like, mate, I've given you the invoice like 17 times. So anyway, right?
It's in the wrong font.
This person actually had a ridiculous thing where the ESL person, he sort of called their bluff. They said something like, you can come down and check it out if you want. And then he was like, okay, I'll do it next time I'm at the event. So at their next event, he went down and they took him through the ESL building to some little room where supposedly, for real, it's like an actual scene out of a movie, bro. You can imagine this in like Barton Fink or something. You go into the room and there's some, and I'm going to make it ridiculous to make it funny. It's just some guy in the counter, right? And the idea was he had loads of paperwork. But I'm going to make it, you go in, it's some old character with like a visor and he's like, oh, hey, what's up? What are you doing in here? He's got stacks of papers, inbox, outbox, salt pile, some Terry Gilliam-esque things of papers are falling over, he's swimming through them all, and he's going, oh, where's your invoice here? And then this person who was getting ripped off by ESL goes, see, Thorin, yeah, they're really unorganized. They're never going to get to the back of it. So my joke, like the movie The Spanish Prisoner is, mate, that wasn't even a real guy. That was an empty room. He was an actor. They brought him in. They set up the set of like, fucking, if you'd have ever pulled one of those like filing cabinets out, there's nothing in there, mate. And they just did all that for you. The whole thing was for your benefit to believe that actually that's why they were behind on the invoices. Meanwhile, they're just a fucking modern company with computers and stuff, you mad fucker. They know if the money's in the account. They can even set up an auto pay direct debit thing the second you submit the invoice. They don't want to pay you. They are purposely delaying because they know every month they don't pay you allows them to have their money in their account. If you don't know, by the way, guys, that's the secret mechanism that allowed esports to exist. Angel Munoz in the late 90s figured out, because he was an investment banker, that if you just got like Intel to give you $300,000, put it in your bank account for a year, you have mad like leverage where you can do loans off that and shit. And then so you get all the interest. And then when you pay Heaton his money for winning the CPL 1 year late, and by the way you delay Heaton back in the day is you keep sending him, because he's from Sweden, forms back going, you haven't filled out the right IRS tax form. You haven't quite filled out the way this, and you don't help him do it. Because again, every time you send the message, it delays it another few weeks. Oh, I haven't got the paperwork yet. Back then you're even going, I need the physical paperwork. Email doesn't count. And the whole scam was just to keep the money in your account longer. That was all it ever was. And at the end of it all, everyone was going, this bloody industry is really so disorganized. It's like, it isn't. It's incredibly ruthlessly organized, and these people know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's true. It's all true.
This message is sponsored by Raycon. If you've been out traveling all summer, been out and about outside, you may want to take some of your podcasts with you, like your favorite podcast, The Four Horsemen, or maybe another elephant show, or just listen to some music while you're on the go. And I always take with me my Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic. These have been fantastic. You're actually going to see me using these soon when LFN does our Transylvania expedition. I'm actually going to have one of these in my ear at all times. Using the awareness mode so I can still hear what's going on around me. And you're going to be able to ask questions and talk to me via text-to-speech and Twitch chat. So these are going to be coming in really handy while I'm in Romania, and you guys should tune into that as well. But I've also used them on the planes. I'm going to use them on the plane to Romania, no doubt. And I never have a problem with battery life because they have up to 32 hours of battery life with the case. I've actually never run out of battery with these because I'm always able to charge them super easily. And they also have a quick charge function where 10 minutes gives you 90 minutes of playtime, which is, if you ever happen to run out. They have the awareness mode, like I said, lets the sound in, but they also have active noise cancellation. So if you're on a plane, like I just was heading back to Korea, or I'm about to be heading from Korea over to Eastern Europe, I always bring these in my backpack with me so that I can turn them on and not be bothered by the noise on the plane. They work fantastic. So the Everyday Earbuds Classic are the perfect back to school or traveling companion, if you will. Go to buyraycon.com/horsemen, that's plural MEN, to get 20% off. They also come in a bunch of cool colors if black really isn't your thing. They are really fantastic. They also have a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you don't like them, you don't have to keep them. So there you go. Thanks a lot to Raycon. Really appreciate your sponsorship as always.
So anyway, right. Why are we talking about this, and how does it link to TI? The TI comes around, and one of the things that Valve do, and obviously we don't get this in CF, and it's incredibly sad that we don't, because me and Duncan probably would have been retired by now. But they get these voice lines, they get these.
Can you even imagine if we had those in a game?
Oh, bro!
Someone like Anders would actually be a millionaire.
The number of times like people asked Riot to put announcer voice packs in the game because but Riot can't ever let anybody else have any money, so they would never do that, right?
Yeah. So anyway, they roll out essentially the talent bundles. They do an update, and you go on there, and you're like, oh wow, okay. There's all of my favorite people are there, and wait, where's Purge? Where's Purge? Right, and again, for those that don't follow Dota, Purge is he's basically the Anko, I would say.
Yeah, he's one of the main analysts. Yeah,
well, I mean, not
very long
right?
tenured, beloved.
He was one of the original weatherman. Again, I hate that term, but he was the guy that would break down the team fights on a big screen at TI. Incredible game knowledge, incredible game understanding.
He also did a bunch of very popular content with Day9. Where Day9,
a very
was
good analog in
Dota.
StarCraft 2, I would say as well. Except Day9, no disrespect to Kevin. But Day9 a bit more charismatic and a bit more fun, quite famously Kevin's a little bit dry.
But it was a very popular series because it was a really good crossover between two content creators, and also it was really interesting because of Sean Plot, Day9's
like they say, like Dr. Dre said, who's the doctor they all told you to go see? Well, when Frankie wanted to learn the game, not that it would have made any difference because a lot of the Dota community are just incels who will attack any woman for any reason whatsoever, but she also went to Purge to learn the game, and they had a good series of streams where Kevin was teaching her the ropes. Obviously as well, he's the guy that does the patch notes. It is the stuff of legend that if a patch drops, you will get a 10-hour-long Purge video about it, right? And you will and you will sit there and it'll be like, this has been changed from 5 to 6, and why that makes the item actually worth buying now. Right, okay, Kevin, yep, they got it. So he essentially is one of the authorities on Dota and has done, almost every TI. So for him not to be there was a big deal. And let me tell you, Kevin he hates me, right? But I
is it on some political shit?
Possibly. I mean, look,
because every now and then he's sort of veered.
I wouldn't have done this now in 2026, but I think I did do this in 2020-ish, right? But anyway, basically, he was criticizing Republicans and working with the Saudis. You know,
there you go. Love that one.
Yeah. But,
which also makes it fair game to then be criticized for doing that.
Who gives a fuck? Whatever. I shouldn't lash out. You make, I say it now, everyone makes their own decisions and you live with what you live with, and who the fuck am I to judge you and who the fuck are you to judge me, right? I mean, say love.
You can almost say the same thing about Republicans.
Yeah, it's also true. But anyway, let me tell you, he sat there and didn't do the post.
Yeah. Didn't all his mates were coming out and saying all the right things.
Didn't do the post. Didn't say anything. Didn't talk about his disappointment or the streak is over because he is like the Undertaker. None of that. Right? He just sat there. And then Reddit went and did its thing. And everyone was like, what? No Purge at TI? What the fuck? Where's Purge? Multiple threads, by the way, because Purge is so beloved by the community. He really is their guy because he is one of them, and he is the turbo nerd who just loves fucking Dota. And so thread after thread after thread. And I was sat there watching this unfold going, man, they're in for a rude awakening because ultimately that's just not how it goes. A Reddit thread is not going to make Valve change their mind or PGL change their mind or whoever was directly in charge of the hiring. It isn't going to work. So, you're essentially screaming into the void. And I'm guessing based on radio silence from Kevin, he was told in advance. Fast forward a few days, just super stealthily quiet. All of a sudden, Purge has voice lines in the talent pack. Just in the game, just in there. And he puts a tweet out basically saying, look, thanks to everybody, that said that they wanted me there. And gonna be rocking the show for TI. He says, looking forward to working another TI. Thanks for the many kind words, everyone, and TY to Valve for the invite. I don't take it for granted. And so he's getting to work another TI based on the love of the community. And so I wanted to bring it to you guys today. Is this a good precedent? And here's why I'll say that. Because Duncan and I, in the past, quite famously, first of all, I've gone to bat for Duncan. When ESL wouldn't hire Duncan, I said, we're a package deal. You don't get me without him. You want to be pet in that. That was where the term the package came from, and I didn't work ESL events for a long time, and then they hired Duncan and didn't hire me, and Duncan said, cheers, homie.
We did never agree to that as like some sort of pact, though, to be fair. And technically, even though you're saying it to be funny now, I did also pay that forward. I've done that for Yanko.
Yeah, exactly.
I also believe
I was going somewhere with
you wait for your opportunity to pay that forward.
Yeah. And we did it for Yanko, and quite famously in the 2018 Face It London major, we did it for Chad, right? We did it for Sponge as well, because he initially wasn't hired. We did it for Vince. He wasn't.
By the way, it's even an angle people will miss is because not only can it directly affect your career, but also it's just a bad look for you yourself. Because how entitled do you look coming out going, hey, how can I not be? What you do is just let you, at least, you don't tell them, but if your friends choose to do it, that's about as good as if you did it, but it doesn't implicate you in the same way. That's why I've always tried to do it for people like Yanko, Maui, etc. Because in that scenario, they haven't asked me to do it, but I just think you can make that case. Because as you say also, I actually do think if you're as big as some of these people, maybe not the Mousings, but like the Yanko angle, it's also actually what you're also offering the company is when they see the public upswelling, you're also, here's a free PR win too. As soon as you are doing that is a PR, you are going to also get a mini win where people go, cool, glad they came to the right seat. Which listen, true, it is manipulative, but also it's politics, isn't it?
Yeah. And so anyway, I nearly tweeted, I was going to say, oh, it's good to see, Kevin getting added to it, but, I don't know about talent hire via Reddit. And then I thought to myself, man, that would make you a fucking hypocrite because you've gone to bat for people before. So why is talent hire via Richard Lewis better than talent hire via Reddit when both of you are expressing a preference. And then I came back at myself and I said, yeah, but you're an expert in the industry and Reddit is full of morons. But equally, I don't think this necessarily matters within this context. So I wanted to bring it to my other horsemen to talk about, because I think this is a fascinating thing. First of all, I want to make it abundantly clear. I think like Kevin's work is impeccable, and I think Purge is Mr. TI, and you know he has kind of moved into this area now where he's not as ubiquitous as he once was, but he does do the prestige events, and I think he has a level of polish. I mean, he's just really, really good on air. The only time I've ever had any cause to criticize him on air was he got really flustered one time with Michelle. This is another one of the reasons why I think we initially fell out, because he basically, like Alex did a throw to him and Kevin's had sound in his ears, and so he couldn't tell what was going on. So he got really snarky and snippy with Alex, and it was Alex's first time doing, his first time doing TI, but first time in Dota. Alex was, Machine was pretty nervous about it all. And you want your senior people to give you a hand when you're new, But I don't think that's reflective of who he is. And I tweeted at the time, because that's what you did back then in esports. Like, if you did that to me, and you did just bullshit. But ultimately, I think like it is true to say it doesn't feel like a TI without him. Almost more so than anyone, I would say him and Sir Action Slacks for me are the two, really essential. And obviously OD Pixel and Fogged as well, I would say. But yeah, so I wanted to bring it to you. Hiring via Reddit, good or bad?
Well, Reddit can't know if there's other reasons why people might not get hired outside of their public-facing popularity. Right, would be the first concern. But in general, like I do think that there's a bunch of bullshit politics that go on behind the scenes that cause people cause the people who make the decisions to ignore what the community actually wants. And I do think that Purge's way of playing it by just not saying anything and letting the community go to bat for him. And probably also, I would imagine some of the other talent were like, what the fuck, Valve? Like, I'm sure there was some pushing behind the scenes too.
There were, what's interesting is it wasn't so much talent, because again, remember, you can't, everyone is so nervous. Like, put it this way, if Sir Action Slacks, he might have done it actually, because Slacks has worked for Valve and, he just is in his own lane. But I mean, like, a lot of the other talent, I think, were like pretty apprehensive about talking about it. Blitz, obviously the coach at Team Liquid, to his credit,
who used to be talent, to be fair.
Yes.
And used to work with Purge extensively, by the way.
So. Yep. He did put a tweet out saying it was like unbelievable that you wouldn't hire him, essentially. And obviously, like, Blitz, like you say, worked with Kevin a lot. Loyal dude, good dude, really cool guy. So fair play to him. But I mean, ultimately, it did feel like they were trying to go in one direction and maybe leave, because it's super hard, right? Like, at what point do you leave the old guard behind? I mean, it's a really interesting philosophical question in esports. It's like I've had this conversation with Anders, and Duncan's gone to bat for Anders many times. Whenever Anders is left out of a prestige event, it's like Anders is the voice of CS. But at what point do we move on and appoint somebody the new voice of CS? And are we past that point? Do you always, if you were a legend?
Because here's the thing, that's just going to happen regardless. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree.
I feel like when the community complaints stop, that's when that person has passed the torch.
I know what Richard means in this sense. Those are two examples of people who don't actually 24/7 live doing events and do all the events. They've both taken their legendary status, which is a form of leverage, and they've used it to pare down the events they go to for whatever reasons, whatever might be going on in their life. So essentially what Richard's sort of asking hypothetically here is, what if those two people, Purge in Dota and Anderson Sears, said, you know what, forever I don't retire from doing my job, except TI. So basically, the other way around, I mean. I don't do the other events, but actually I want to do every TI and every major, right? Even though they're legendary, Murray, eventually, I would put this argument out there. Eventually, there's going to come a time where there'll be so many people who they're the new Anders, they're the new Purge, they do live the game. Eventually, one of those guys is going to get bumped if you've got a limited amount of spots. I always say this about legendary players. They get really fucking upset at me when you're one of those rain type figures in CS. And you're like, I'm still good, though. It's like, yes, and you're now denying the next raid from getting that spot, mate, because you're clinging on till the bitter end. And in this particular case, if you actually aren't better than them in the game, eventually there comes a point where you're a legend, and we'd rather just go what a legend he was than go, he kind of shit now, but I guess we have to keep him in the game because he's a legend. Eventually, you're being the guy who's stopping the new guy, surely. So I know what he means. Like, it is a balance, right? Like, eventually there's going to come a point where he shouldn't be hired no matter who he is. Same with Anders. So I also do think that is a really tricky to gauge.
Yeah. And the problem is we know that Reddit is uniquely unqualified to tell anybody what is good for an esports broadcast. I mean, first of all, Reddit is a consensus machine. It's designed to arrive at a consensus, and any one that deviates from the consensus is essentially silenced and penalized, and publicly so, right? Like it's even set up, that you can view worst comments in a thread, and you can go and downvote them further and essentially compound their stupidity. How dare you deviate from the circle jerk that's going on in this thread right now? And obviously people on Reddit in general, I've always said it, Reddit is essentially where, fucking morons go to LARP as intellectuals. Everyone on Reddit, in CS, for example, they're all experts in coding. They've all made games. They're all 25K Premiere, 4K. Fucking Elo, face it. You won't bump into an average player on the CS subreddit. They don't exist, apparently, which is incredible considering the percentiles. Similarly, one of the things that happens on Reddit when it comes to broadcast talent is they can't understand personal preference. Like, you will see as a genuine form of critique for why someone shouldn't be hired, I don't like their voice. Yanko went through this for a long time, right? Right. By the way, we always say esports is global. Well, guess fucking what? Americans, you're going to hear global accents, right? I don't give a fuck if you can't understand it. Maybe work on your understanding rather than telling people that they need to change their inflections. Because I'm English. We invented this shit, and I'm fine with Yanko. Right? I can hear every word he says perfectly. But for a long period of time, there was a feeling like at E-League, they didn't want to hire Yanko because they were worried about how he would sound to an American audience. The community essentially bullied, for want of a better word, every time he was on air, resident sleeper. Because,
by the way, it aged so badly. The joke is now he's the OG that has all the funny aspects and the spicy personality.
Exactly.
And actually, he's really good at rolling with a joke now because you have to give people a chance, don't you?
Yes. And, I remember as well, this has happened in a number of esports, like Deficio, another example. They judge you on day one and say you can never be allowed on a broadcast, and then you go on to be really, really good, and this has happened. And then the inverse is, if you were a popular player, doesn't matter how shite you are, doesn't matter how fucking bad you are, they'll pretend every word that comes out of your mouth is gold. And, I'm not trying to pick on anybody here, but, Dupree, for instance, in CS hasn't quite hit what I would have wanted from a former Astralis player. I want him to be like the Tom fucking Brady of analysis, right? He played on the greatest team of all time. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hear liquid gold being poured into my ears. Unfortunately, I don't think he cares enough about the craft to develop. But people go on Reddit, after 18 months, he's new. You're not new after 18 months, I'm afraid. You're tenured. You've been in esports, certainly. You've been doing it for 18 months. So it is interesting, I think, when we let so many people in esports go to Reddit and they go, if the kids think it's popular, that's what we're going to do. And so while I'm not saying this for Kevin's case, I think he's unique in the sense that almost everyone across the board felt like, what the fuck? Why isn't he there? Is he sick? Can he not do it? I do think that when you get into the murky territory of Reddit saying, we want this person, and them getting it, well, remember, unlike TI, if that happens at a normal event and not the Super Bowl of esports, that's probably somebody else's spot. At TI, you can just add people.
Yes.
But at a Cologne or a budgeted event, that might be somebody else's spot. By
the way, there is an example in Counter-Strike. Since now he's just never going to be hired by them for whatever reason. Maui's basically told this story on stream. Maui had Carmack from ESL basically tell him, sort of off the record, Reddit doesn't really like you, and that actually affects how we decide whether they hire you or not. To the biggest fucking tournaments in Counter-Strike. Like, imagine hearing that, by the way. So essentially, the wrong 50 dickheads who camp the new queue on Reddit can just decide your career now. The real problem I have with this whole topic is, like, I do think there's a difference between industry legends going to bat for you, etc. Also, you can usually pretty quickly tell, is it just because they're mates with you, or are they actually... I mean, I'll give you an example. Actually, you will find cases of people like Richard saying here, where maybe there's even been a conflict between the people, but actually you think... In fact, I've even said a number of times, I thought Frankie should be hired for some events, not always the CS major, but there was times where we actually lacked interviewers who had any fucking balls and would actually ask the players questions and not cater to them and tell them they did brilliantly in the game where they were stupid and idiots. So there's been times I think actually that sort of frenemy type one goes even further. Surely that does have like a status to it that isn't just like, I just like the person, because as you said, it's the bad popularity contest. So my biggest problem all in all is this, though. It's actually one of the reasons why I hate Reddit. I hate Reddit specifically because it has done what the CSPPA and ESIC did. It has pretended to be the solution to a problem that just takes up the space the real solution would have and ensures there never will be a real solution. So what you have is Reddit is a content aggregator, which in esports no longer aggregates content and in fact gatekeeps content out of the area where people who claim they want content go to get their content. That is fucking infuriating. I'm not even talking about myself. I don't need Reddit. It would be like a 1 to 5% boost on my video. But I'll tell you what, the guy who makes the King T, the Yumi, the Hawker, one of those guys who's a little content creator who makes a video and they don't get the boost of Ash or something like that, who's a coach, etc., and has that extra stay. That would double their views on YouTube. That would make them part of the conversation. And so, unfortunately, people do treat Reddit like it is sort of like the fucking, this is the like overall sense of where the scene is at and having your finger on the pulse, whereas actually it is an incredibly small amount of people. It's the tyranny of the minority. Like they just are able to sway all of this cultural and
especially when they've been wrong so many times.
Oh, a million, and they've reversed position a million times too. Bro, one of the maddest ones ever was when we did that event in Finland 2 years ago, which was my last actual LAN as a real broadcast talent, basically since COVID. Oh, no, I did the major as well, but whatever. After that one, it's the only one I've done in the last like 5 years. The joke was there was people on Reddit like, I've always hated Thorin, but he is needed in the scene. It's like by the logic of the Carmack thing, you're one of the idiots who maybe not get hired, you idiot. Yeah. You're the problem you're now complaining about. But then you're turning around going, why are they hiring him? It's like, because of the 5 years of you posting not to, you moron. Like, do you not see how the system works?
Yeah, it is surreal. And it's like, look, I already know now that when this goes out on YouTube, there'll be comments, because obviously people just put the comment without even listening to the show. And they're going to be going, wow, angry at Reddit, like it's all one person. It's a consensus machine. So this is how
I'm that way.
Yeah. So this is how a consensus would work. If more people were willing to go and bat for the people they were willing to go and bat for, the thread wouldn't be fuck Thorin every time, or every time a piece of content goes to the subreddit, we play Thorin bingo, and it's like, yeah, him and Richard Lewis is so thin skin, block me on Twitter. Like, we're still doing this in 2026, by the way.
Well, I will say this, Reddit is so astroturfed at this point in time that it wouldn't surprise me if ESL literally made a bunch of decisions, not only about talent, but about everything else, and then hired people or used bots to astroturf Reddit about those opinions and then tell people that it's because of those opinions that they're not getting hired.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Let me just show you, because I keep track of like the accounts that I think are, AstroTurf. For people who don't know, one of the ways people can make money, right? Like if you're living in a country where maybe you don't have a lot of financial opportunity, people go on Reddit. They post like really benign stuff that's going to be like popular. Like, here's a picture of my cat. It gets 10,000 upvotes. You can now not be suppressed in any subreddit. And then the people delete the things they posted to get that karma, then sell the account to a influencer or marketer. And you do this ad nauseum at scale, and then basically companies now have access to these accounts so they can do viral marketing schemes, upvote stuff across, multiple phones and this kind of thing. This account that I saw the other day is just fucking ridiculous. Like if you look at this, if you click on submitted, it's just all ESL stuff, goated. Right, like, look at this. Goated opening show on day of Cologne playoffs. Goated opening show on day 2 of Cologne. Like, the Cologne major walk-ins are absolutely goated. IEM Cologne 2026, best event in terms of production ever. There was tons of fucking problems on the first few days at this Cologne.
Yeah, but I'm telling you guys, this shit happens all the time. So that's the other thing is that the Reddit stuff is often just super fake, but maybe not in the Dota scene if they actually manage.
No, I mean, put it this way, you're right. I can imagine that if you had, okay, so let's say you had a talent. Let's say you hired a member of talent that you yourself liked, but you also knew they weren't necessarily the best in their field, but you were essentially hiring them to like groom them and make them better and develop them as talent, but also you could pay them less. I can imagine you might make threads like, wow, this person is super sick, super popular. Why haven't I seen them before? Posting history, nothing. I could imagine that. Certainly, Reddit is used to manipulate public sentiment about certain topics. I mean, we were joking about this back in the day, like back in 2013. Riot had employees whose job was to scan Reddit. You sat there all day, and if something was going viral or if a complaint was happening, you got in touch with the mods, what's all of it, on their Skype channel as it was at the time. And you then assimilated that information and acted appropriately. If someone was like, if ever there was put it this way, let's say you were a streamer and you did something shitty on stream, you like fucking screamed or like smashed your keyboard or you typed something offensive or you just quit a game, and there would be a clip of that on the front page of the League of Legends subreddit, you were just banned immediately. It wasn't the in-game systems that caught you, flagged you, banned you. It was that clip being specifically sent to that guy at Riot Games that then escalated it up to fucking light or whatever. And so Reddit has always been influencing esports stuff. The question is, again, whether or not it's good, bad, or whether it's a sword of Damocles, whether it can cut both ways. Because obviously in this instance that we're talking about, we all feel TI is better for having Purge at it. But it probably wouldn't have happened without the Reddit threads, I feel. I could be wrong about that, but that's my read on it.
I saw a lot on Twitter too, to be fair.
Sure. I don't know what it is. A Reddit thread feels more powerful than a Twitter chain. I don't know if you agree with that. But because Reddit is a consensus machine, it does feel like if you see the number one thread on Reddit, your subreddit, your community forum, is this person sucks or this person is really good, it feels that that's way more powerful than just a bunch of people on Twitter going, yeah, this person's good, this person sucks. I think like the Reddit, I hate admitting it out loud because all the little gremlins behind the Reddit account say, yes, we have all this power, yes. But they do, unfortunately. That's just the reality of the world that we operate in.
Yeah, but then technically that also does work out, because then they go, I've got all this power. Oh, well, time to put my ESL fries in the bag. What's that, Ralph? What next? Right, boss, I did a great job. Whatever.
Yeah,
It's
true.
all good.
Big true.
And if people don't know, this is just the esports version of it. It's already happening with Russia and China and all the intelligence agencies that are all over fucking Reddit. It's implied American alphabet agencies are in Discords, etc. So it's also actually just a minor scaled down version of what happens anyway on social media and in all public spaces. Like, there's a reason why those public spaces are free and you are encouraged to participate in them.
Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting one. I thought it was kind of interesting because, like I say, the way that Valve must have scrambled as well, because he's not just getting added to the broadcast. He got his voice lines, his autographs in there now, his pictures in there. It must.
I'm going to assume that normally takes weeks to do as well. So, like, they must have been like, basically, the second this started, and they decided, they must have, the whole chain must have flown into action.
Everything's got to be approved. I mean, look. Without naming names, I know some people that like really do try and get edgy on the voice lines. People like submit belches or urinating into a bucket.
Remember, the obvious angle you want to do here is not just have a funny line. You want the line that like could be used as a different way to seem BM or do something silly, where it's like, I didn't know they were doing that. And then obviously, like, it's just to fuck with people. Like, that's half the game, isn't it? So that everyone buys your one time.
It's another reason why Dota just fucking rocks, because Valve have done everything they can to combat toxicity, right, in the same way that a MOBA, League of Legends professes to do, and yet they have these voice lines that are designed to do nothing except tilt your opponent.
Of course.
That they are there specifically to annoy your opponent.
The joke was the OG guys used to use their own lines to try and fuck with people, because that was the thing that was fucking annoying, when it's some of the shit they had.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, one of the things that talent always try and do in the Dota world is you want to get a voice. Yeah, right. You have to get as edgy a voice line as you can past Valve, because you want it to go viral and make you lots of money. And again, when I heard, by the way, like some of the people that play the game seriously, as in they just submit a voice line they think is going to be cool, I was like, what? You only made that? Nah, because it should have been way more. And then there are some people that like actually go fucking hard in the paint. And I think Effie, for example, she had like an anime laugh, like like that, right? Which obviously that's the most tilting fucking thing in the world that you could possibly hear if you've just got your shit pushed in the game of Dota. And yeah, she made a fucking fortune on that by all accounts. And I think,
this really was. You're right, Richard. This was my call, and I was built for that shit. Imagine that fucking laugh. It'd be outrageous, wouldn't it?
I know. Can you just imagine? Can you imagine if we had this?
Being able to trigger the second you kill someone in the game, you teabagging them.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that, mate. I'd be a millionaire at this point.
I know. And like I say as well, I mean, like Sir Action Slacks, I don't know if he does well in it, but he should. Every single time, I always go gold on his, because he's always got an absolute tilter. Whether it's like he's done the circus music, like this one, it's, and there it is, folks. Have a great night. So it's like, when you win the game and the fucking ancients explode, and you can just time it so it goes. It's just great. They just have so much cool stuff in Dota. But anyway, to the point, obviously Purge had to work his stuff in. And so the turnaround on it must have been relatively quick, because again, it's all got to be approved by Valve. And even though Purge isn't an edgy boy, he did get all of his stuff there, and he's back where he belongs, on the panel at TI. And the other thing as well is, because TI's in 2 stages, you have like essentially the group stage, which is starting in 4 days. And then you've got the TI for real, which starts on the 20th, which is going to be in Shanghai. Some people will be on the earlier stages of TI, but they don't go to the big show. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Kev, who wasn't hired, given his unique skill set, is going to go to the Big Show. Like, he should go to the Big Show. He is the Big Show, you know? So it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But yeah, I'm super glad. One of the things I do love about TI is Valve actually, they're still engaged just enough. You know, they're not like that with CS now. You know, we always make the joke, you know, when will Gabe come to a CS major? The answer to that is never. You probably, and ultimately, you're never going to see him at an esports event ever again, probably. He's just on his super scientific yacht conducting oceanic experiments, like, which is like also madness to think about. But I mean, like the rest of the Valve guys, they fucking love Dota, and they've done some great content and great crossovers. And I think the community as well is starting to soften a little bit in terms of their criticism. Like, everybody hated the fact we don't have a big battle pass for TI now that uses FOMO, so you have to get 200 levels to get an Arcana that won't be released ever again. It's just all about the esports now, and everybody complained and everybody hated that. So what Valve have done is they've had the TI stuff run parallel to a really cool event called Dark Carnival, which has been, it's 102 mini challenges you do in sequence, and every time you complete the challenge, you earn a reward and you get a little bit of a story. They set the event up by deleting a character from the game, and the story was he'd been kidnapped by the ringmaster and replaced with an automaton. And you do this whole thing, and because that's run parallel to TI, people are like, wow, like you can have both things, you know? So it's good. The Dota community have matured a lot. They're not the whiniest bunch of bitches in esports anymore. Not right now. It's definitely the CS community. They are pathetic. They will be winning the worst fans of the year again at the end of the year in the Gonzo Awards. But yeah, super happy about where TI is and looking forward to watching it.
If you've got weight loss goals this summer, it's time to actually hit them. Weight Loss by Hims is designed to support you every step of the way. And now Hims offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill and the Wegovy pen, so you can lose the weight and keep it off. So with Wegovy at Hims, you can lose up to 20% of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep the weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. It also happens all online. So all you have to do is go to Hims, and they'll connect you with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. And if you are prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Hims also supports a lot of other men's health products, sexual products, hair loss products as well. So they can kind of cover you in a variety of different ways. Especially me, as I've gotten older, definitely easier to keep the weight on. Maybe lose a little bit of hair. So I've started using some of the Hims hair loss products as well, and it has been working for me. So Hims has been really great. It's very easy to get online, very easy to talk to a licensed provider and then kind of get everything rolling, and they'll just ship it right to your door. So really couldn't be any easier. So if you're ready to reach your goals, visit hims.com/4horsemen. That's FOURHORSEMEN, plural, of course, men, to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/4horsemen, hims.com/4horsemen. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, please visit hims.com. And thank you very much to Hims for sponsoring us here on the Four Horsemen.
All right. Well, now let's do some esports.
Well, let's do the Joe Miller stories then. We should start there. It links. At least it follows through. I made this a mini Dota episode.
Actually, that's the question. Did you actually mean, Monty, it was supposed to be stories about us, or is it just crazy esports stories?
Whatever you guys got. I do want to tell one first, because it does actually. Yeah, so I do want to tell just a story, because obviously forever salty at Riot Games. But I'm going to send you guys right now a couple of videos to kind of get what I'm talking about. If you haven't, Thorin will have seen these, but you will have not have seen these probably, Richard.
What about that?
We'll see. But
yeah.
as you guys know, so way back in the day, this is just a story about Riot's cockiness in the early days of League of Legends. Because you have to remember, by like 2012, 2013, this was season 2, season 3 of League of Legends. It's absolutely huge. It exploded in a way that was unreal in terms of speed, fervor for an esport. Nothing had ever happened like this in the world prior to this, just because
it's probably 10 times bigger than Counter-Strike and 2 to 3 times bigger than
it also happened so
StarCraft,
fast.
Definitely.
A couple years before, StarCraft 2 would have been hands down like the most popular esport in the West.
They used to have league events at the beginning in like 2011, IEMs, but that would be the side tournament. And then within 2 years, it was the tournament that was the biggest one.
Yeah. So they literally went from Season 1 Worlds in 2011 being a DreamHack side stage to Season 3 Worlds, which is the 2013 one that I was at the Staples Center, the main like basketball arena in Los Angeles. And it was sold out. It was completely insane. And the numbers on these videos that I'm going to talk about show that, because some of them have like 50 million views from 2013, 2014 on YouTube. And that is absolutely wild. Not the esports one. That one only has 7.5 million views. But when Riot was releasing game cinematics at the time, there's one from 13 years ago that has 58 million views called A Twist of Fate, which was their first like kind of hype cinematic, I would say, that they made, because clearly they weren't, as a company, like, known for doing that. That was much more Blizzard territory, because they had their whole like cinematic department. So when they would release a WoW expansion, you get those fucking incredible cinematics that would come out. But the point of this story is that Riot was really bad at making these cinematics. Like 58, sure, they get 58 million views, and everybody was talking about A Twist of Fate. But if you look back at it, even for the time compared to Blizzard, it's terrible. And it's incredibly poorly made. It looks bad, even for 13 years ago, even for a video game company 13 years ago. And then not only that, but there's no substance to this whatsoever. It literally is like, look at this champion, they're fighting each other and doing some moves. And then look at this next champion, they're fighting each other and doing some moves. And if you contrast this to the actual storytelling that's happening in the Blizzard ones just look a million times better. Like, it was really sad when this was coming out. But hilariously, and we've talked about it on this show many times, this was the start of Marc Merrill's I'm a TV and film producer arc, where like they thought this was the coolest shit ever. They thought it was so cool. It was like, well, now we got this champion, he's fighting this champion. The next one comes in and wow, she's fighting this champion. Anyway, it's terrible. Like, I think if you guys watch this, it's literally 4.5 minutes of just two characters fighting each other badly. And the fact that this could get 58 million views is really just a testament to how popular this game was. But really, this story is about the World's 2013 animation, which is called Road to the Cup, which was awful when it came out. And this was my first World Championship. And remember, I was working with OGN, the Korean production company, television station. And so they had their own separate Korean broadcast at this event. They had their own broadcast truck that was on site. They had their own separate like broadcast stage, because they were covering it for Korea. And, the difference between OGN's level of production and Riot's level of production at the time was enormous, as in Riot's was terrible. And this was the same year that Riot had flown me out from Korea with no notice. They told me and Doa we had to go to Los Angeles to see their new LCS studio. Well, that's not true. They told us we had to come to Los Angeles, and this was like a week before playoffs in LCK. So they had to get, it wasn't even LCK, before Champions. And so they had to get like backup casters. Right. And so we went out to LA for a week, and we just sat in their new LCS studio, which was a converted mechanics garage with like back-to-back players with a sheet of paper separating them so they could hear each other's comms. And we decided we weren't going to ask why we were there. And they never told us. They literally said, come out to LA. By the way, we were not Riot contracted. We were not Riot employees. We were not paid by Riot. We were paid by a Korean television station. And they sent us out there and never told us why we were there. And then we left. and we just missed a week of our own competition for absolutely no reason to sit literally in the caster green room in a converted mechanics garage. So the point is, they were so proud of this. And so I was at the World Championship, and they released this Road to the Cup animation. And if you guys watch this, it is so bad. The animation quality is objectively terrible. OGN had a decade and a half of experience making these epic player intros that were hyping everybody up. They were already releasing badass LOL ones by this time that everybody loved, and were actually doing storytelling about the players. And so they released this thing, and they showed it to me before. They were so proud of it. They showed it to me before the world before they released it at the World Finals, and it has nothing to do with the actual players, because they have the players in there and they're supposed to be their favorite champions. But again, like the Twist of Fate video, it's just them like doing moves. But the problem is that it's like one of, you know how they're in like medieval Europe, people would like draw pictures of lions who hadn't actually seen a lion. Are you familiar with this concept?
No.
Richard, you're not?
No.
Okay,
no.
so
if you Google image it now, you'll find some hilarious shit.
Yeah. So like the problem, Richard, is like, you were supposed to draw a lion, but you didn't know, you had never seen a lion, so you just had to go on descriptions of what a lion looked like. There's also a very famous piece of taxidermy, Richard, that was like made for the King of Sweden. That's like was made by a taxidermist who had never seen a lion. Hold on. But it was
okay.
like it was like that. Hold on, it's the derpiest line of all time. Let me show you. It's so funny. Here you go. It's called The Lion of Gripsholm Castle. Basically, it was like the animators had never actually played the game of League of Legends. Right. And so you get like Alex Ich in this video as Kha'Zix, okay? And he has like Kha'Zix bug arms, but he's doing like Kung Fu. Kha'Zix is a bug, doesn't do Kung Fu. Alex Ich is a player, doesn't do Kung Fu. You have like Skara dancing with this barrel for Gragas. So they took the idea of like the players should be the characters, but then they made them do things that the characters don't do, but also the players didn't do. So it ends up being this really surreal experience to watch this video, because it has nothing to do with the players and it has nothing to do with the game. Pretty much. Also, Medios doing like jumping around, like doing Kung Fu as Zac, which is a blob monster, is also just really funny. So you look back at this, you're like, what the hell were they thinking? So I get out of this. They're like, do you like it? I'm like, yeah, okay. Can I go now? So immediately I go back to the production truck where the OGN guys are all at. And I'm like, guys, did they show you that video that they made, the animated thing? And they all just started laughing. And they're like, we told them it was good. I was like, it's so bad. Because the game had gotten so successful, and to be fair, like the game was good. It deserved to be successful. But it was that at that point, I just knew Riot was so cooked, because they thought that everything they did, because it was so popular. There were so many people playing this game. There was no way a cinematic they released would fail, because it was just volume of people would just watch it. Yeah. And a certain number of idiots would just tell them it was good. But they actually had no internal mechanism at that point in time to decide whether something was good or bad, even when their competitors like Blizzard were clearly outpacing them in cinematic quality. And even in esports production, when OGN was thoroughly putting boot to ass, like they just couldn't realize it. They had no idea. So they just thought it was fucking amazing. So it was
coming
just
from
one of the
OGN
wildest
guys
experiences.
as well. That would have meant something, because they used to have all the fucking goated cinematics and walkouts and all that shit. So.
But you see, it's not in Korean culture to tell somebody like your shit is terrible. So they were like, yeah, it's good, whatever. It's not their problem. but just so funny. Like, so this is the start of the Riot hubris, and this is why it was so difficult to work with them, is because you could never convince them that their ideas were bad.
Well, I mean, look,
they would just.
The joke was Dom daring to suggest the skin was shit.
Yeah.
That like a woman burst into tears, and then they had to contrive a reason to ban him from the fucking game, famously.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, like you say, I'm not to relitigate all the stuff. I've actually got something new we can talk about with Riot, but I just used to hate those, like, in the early days of esports, you would just see this, like, slew of red t-shirts.
I'm back in a sec, keep going.
They would just come to your event, and you would just be like, oh, fuck me. Like, they're here. And, like, if you worked in the press...
Oh, Richard, it got even worse. Like, I remember talking to this one Rioter one time where they were like, for every 100 applications Riot gets, we turn down 99.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, you truly are the one.
And I literally just asked the guy, I was like, yeah, but how many of those applications are just like random kids who are applying? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, you're a video game company. Of course, you get a lot of applications. That doesn't mean you're getting competent people.
I mean, like, it was just because I did a lot of the early stuff when Riot were coming up. I was in the press world back in 2010 to 2013. The only thing I was really hosting was StarCraft, and I wasn't necessarily a shoe-in for all of those gigs. We would go to these events, and like I said, you would just see them all in the red t-shirts, and you would just be, oh, fucking hell. And they would take over the press area all the time. They would, they would insist, like, we need more TV monitors being brought in, and, like, you're just trying to do your shit. And they would just be like, right, you're now surrounded by noisy monitors because they want to watch the game. There would be shit like that. I remember we went to this after party, and it was run by, let me think. Not that it's super relevant to the story, but it was like an NVIDIA, but it wasn't NVIDIA. It was something like that. It was like, basically they were because it was at a Gamescom, and they were like a peripheral company or something that was adjacent to gaming and esports, big company, and they put on a after party, the official Gamescom after party. Not official, because if you've ever been to a Gamescom, every development company has their own after party, except Riot in this instance. And what they did is they came to this after party in red t-shirts again, because it was at the period of time when they couldn't turn up not in uniform. The executives could, but if you were a low level or lower level, like mid-management, you had to wear the red t-shirt for visibility at the event. You had to. It was mandated. And so anyway, they turned up to this after party, which was run by a totally separate company, and they just they funneled their way to the bar and created like a channel of like red t-shirt people, and there was just one woman like just stood at the bar permanently ordering drinks and just saying, we'll have another and we'll have another and we'll have another, and this guy needs it, and then like chaining them back so nobody else could get served. And I said, like, what the fuck what are you doing? Like, this is an after party. You queue like everybody else. And she was going, no, it's our after party. And I went, I like pointed at the signs, all the decorative stuff. Like, it definitely isn't. It's definitely this company's after party. And then she said to me without even like a blink, going, well, people are only here to watch League of Legends anyway, so it's as good as our after party. No, that was my first encounter. That was when I realized, like, these people aren't real. These people are from outer fucking space. Like, and by the way, nobody stopped them. Like, if it's my company and a bunch of fucking cretins in red t-shirts turn up, hijack the bar, and start being belligerent to like other attendees, I'm gonna ask them to leave. But because it was Riot Games, like back then, you just couldn't get a negative story in the press about Riot Games. I don't know what they did, but I guess just the combination of who they were and the Tencent money, and they had so many connections to so many journalists, because, you can buy a journalist for a fucking, T-shirt and a goodie bag, a fucking, a Blitzcrank skin code, and you're going to get a good write-up. They're very corruptible, the games press. That was pretty much, I was like, I even remember saying at Head of Media, I was like, can I include this in my write-up? Can I do a whole write? Because they sent me a Gamescom, obviously. And I was covering League of Legends out there. There's a bunch of videos from that one. You can see I interview, there's some people no longer with us, sadly, like Shushay. But there's a bunch of interviews up there. And I said to the editors, I was like, can I do a write-up about the afterparty? And now Riot Games were just total cunts. And even the Head of Media that let me write anything about anyone, well, I probably just leave that out, mate. Let's just see let's see where they end up. And obviously where they ended up was complete control over the esports industry between 2013 and 2016.
By the way, what we should do on this, because it's going to be the easiest way to keep it all. Let's just keep them all on topic. I've got a couple of Riot stories.
Well, hold on. Before we do that, I do want to talk about LCK for a minute and go into the actual games.
What, the one that's happening now?
I think he's leading into an ad type thing.
Oh,
you fucked it there, but don't worry.
My bad.
You're spoiling it.
I've done one total ad read on the network. I'm a little bit green. Sorry, guys.
No, because but it is topical, because like LCK is going on right now, and Duncan and I can briefly talk about what's going on at the top of LCK, because basically, Richard, you may not know this, but the new meta in league formats is that to avoid really boring games, and it is actually a good idea, by the way, is that you spend the first part of the year in the domestic leagues, like in China and Korea, and all the teams play each other, okay? Right. And then after MSI, they get divided based on their previous results into like the good group and the shit group.
Yeah.
Yes, after the first split. So what happens is like the good teams would then only play against each other for like the second half of the season, and the bad teams will only play against each other for the second half of the season. So it actually makes the game significantly more competitive, because previously, especially in LCK, it would be like 3 teams just beating up on everybody else in the league. So you got like,
pretty sweet. There was a team this year that was never even winning games, the Mad Series. So like, if you ever played that one, it's basically a boring games. Whereas instead you have like a Premier League sort of, and the best teams playing each other.
Yes. So, it's like 5 good teams and then 5 bad teams. But at least like the bad games are now just clown fiestas. But basically in the previous iteration, you'd end up with like maybe 3 good games in an entire week in these leagues. Yes. But now you get, basically now every day there's a good game.
In the top group, almost every game's good, basically.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So and the records carry over. So what's going on right now is that it's effectively creating a system where in the top 5 teams, the top 4 teams automatically go to playoffs, okay? The bottom team in the good group then has to play against 3 other teams in the bad group to get the last playoff seed. And the playoff seeds, that's really important, because obviously teams go to Worlds, right? Out of the playoffs. But what's going on right now is very interesting, because there isn't a clear number 1, number 2 team, really. Like usually there's a 1 or 2 heavy favorites in LCK. And this year they're all just like crushing each other. So on Polymarket, you can actually see that there's incredible parity for the first time in a long time, because it basically has been Gen.G dominating, dominating domestically for years. Right.
So there was a stat recently, they didn't even lose the game, that Gen.G with like Chovy had never even had like a 2-match loss streak for like 1,800 days. So even if they lost, they just won the next match no matter what.
From that was like 2019 or something.
So before, LCK was the most stratified league. You always had the super dominant top team, like a Manchester City in the Premier League. Then you'd have like the contenders that could be good 1 or 2 teams max. Right. And then you'd have the mid-table, who, generally only going to beat the bad teams in each other. And then you'd have the bottom dwellers who are just total shit. But now, this particular one of the like elite group is unbelievable. Like, basically, it's just like some rock, paper, scissors. It's what the day is. It's just mad meta. And it's meant that, like, the league is outrageous. So I'll give you a quick example. Like, Dplus is actually the worst ranked team there because the records carry over from before the international tournaments. But they just won EWC. They weren't even at MSI. They won EWC against all top teams. And now they've won 3 out of their 4 series. Meanwhile, Hanwha Life, they were the number 1 team going in MSI. They won MSI, fucked up EWC, and now they've lost 3 out of their last 4 series. So there's no, like, the parity is literally every day it changes. And every day, by the way, literally, Cage will just go like, now this team is the number 1 in Korea. The next, now I guess this team, and then they're so, yeah, he was obviously doing it to Riot Community now. But people do that for real, though. Their brain has to be results oriented. So they're getting wrecked right now in League.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine it makes this polymarket super interesting, though.
Yeah, I mean, polymarket right now, Gen.G is still the favorite in spite of their issues, and especially with Ruler, like, not being great right now. And by the way, Richard, Ruler is one of the best players of his position of all time, but he actually got, like, caught in this, like, tax drama this year. So he was accused of, like, not paying his taxes to the Korean government.
I mean, it's a big deal out there, so...
It'll be a lot of money. He's been making millions from, like, China.
It's been cleared up.
It'll be a massive amount of money, yeah.
It did seem like a nothing burger, but it did, like, take a lot. I think it fucked him, his mental up, because
it's implied that there is social shame. We all laugh when, like, LXEV and Flush are like, oh, the taxes, like, that's it. Oh, there's social shame. Like, people, it's implied this is actually taxes.
I mean, like, put it this way, like, fuck taxes. I want to make it abundantly clear. Like, I used to be.
I mean, the fact that he had to, like, deal with this very public drama,
of course,
and then also, you know, the government investigation into it basically is obviously incredibly distracting. So his personal game has not been as good as it typically has been.
In South Korea, so is South Korea a functioning society where the taxes actually go to pay for what taxes are meant to pay for?
Put it this way, one thing I will say as someone who has a lot less experience than Monty is, it was one of those countries where I've even had this experience when I've lived in the Netherlands, where you actually get shocked at how much you yourself, who you thought you really, fight the power guy, have just accept of, like, corruption and, like, and shitification. So I'll give you an example. When I used to live in Korea, there was once a time where, like, a girl that I was dating just had, like, someone did some, like, construction noises. It was like 10:30 p.m. and the rule was you're not allowed to do it past 10 p.m. She called up somehow, like, the city, and within a day had it, like, stopped. Like, just a random citizen just did that. And here's what's bizarre. I was even telling her, why you wasn't doing that? Then I've this going to give you the runaround. Not only did she get it stopped, but she thought I was mad for thinking, like, but they have to change it. That's the law. And I was just thinking... But then I realized that's what happens when things work, bro. Yeah, same thing here. When I pay my tax in the Netherlands, they actually, like, clean the streets, for example.
No, I mean, everything is super clean.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
What do you think, Monty?
There is both high-level corruption. So, like, famously, almost no Korean presidents actually see out the end of their terms due to insane corruption scandals or impeachment or both. And they're only allowed to serve for 1 5-year term, by the way. So that means basically none of them even make it to 5 years. And if they do, they get put in jail afterwards.
You've got 5 years to make yourself as wealthy as possible. It
is like the cursed job. But also, like, the subway system is amazing. Everything's clean. There's no crime. So,
I'll give you an example of how ridiculous it is. For decades, their subway system has the modem for your phone on the train with you. If people don't know, to this day, the London Underground does not have mobile access.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's just accepted. We just take that as we're doing that Reddit me of, like, they just don't have the technology anymore. Like, it is. It's just everywhere else in the world. They don't fucking rip you completely off. I always say they don't even give you the reach round in the UK, mate. Just
So, in any case, like, the parity in the league right now is crazy, and, like, Hanwha's at 25% chance. That's what the traders on Polymarket think to win this thing. T1's at 23%. Dplus recently had a giant fall from grace in spite of their recent form, but I do think they're a little overrated. But after they lost to T1, their chances dropped pretty significantly. But T1 then immediately turned around and lost to HLE. So I just feel like it is impossible, really impossible to predict this. I do think Dplus is kind of frauds because obviously a lot of teams are not taking Esports World Cup super seriously after MSI, and there is a bit of a hangover, I think, from that event. So I don't anticipate them going very far in playoffs, and I do think Gen.G will get it together. But the thing about HLE is they've always been super patch dependent with this kind of roster core because, Zeka.
I mean, basically their entire team except Zaya, so just all idiosyncratic players. Like, for example, their support players got a very small champion pool. Their AD carry actually usually has to weak side half the time. Their mid laner has famously had a small champion pool is good. Their jungler is probably the most feast or famine jungler in the league, where he's either the best for 20 minutes or he throws low gear. So as a result, even though their team on paper, them and Gen.G have the super team rosters, the difference with the Gen.G one, even though they're actually not that good by eye test, by the way, right now, the reason everyone still thinks, all the traders as well, and all the experts, that eventually they're going to be really good and maybe even number one, is they have the super team roster where in theory it should work in any meta. Whereas the HLE one's more like they have the super team roster if, X, Y, Z and A all come together all at once. But that also means, this is why it's fun, that means HLE could also be number one. They could still win.
Yeah, they get the right patch in playoffs or the right patch at Worlds. Like they have extremely good players, so they could absolutely
and here's
win
the fun angle. You could argue T1, who is maybe weaker than ever for years and years and years and years, has massive problems at the solo laners. They've even just subbed out the jungler. Their AD carry might be the best player in the whole league. So it's a mega time. Essentially, it's the hardest time to predict who's number one. But I'll say this. If I was taking a polymarket one, this is where I want to go in, because this is where everyone's going to be like 20, 50. I would get crazy value when I pick Gen.G if they make it. Hanwha Life, if I believe they'll get the patch, I'd probably go with Gen.G.
There you go. So if you want to check this out, you can head on over to LCK 2026 season winner at Polymarket. Thorin.
And also keep tracking that each week, because it's going to go up and down, and the numbers will change, and each match will completely flip it. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Dplus dropped from 20% to 9% within a couple of days after that loss. So, but who knows the state of anything really at this point. So it's probably some interesting angles to take there. So what were you going to say about LCK or Riot stories?
I've got a couple of Riot stories for you.
All right, there you
go.
So
here's a short one for you. You were actually there, but you just don't know this story.
oh boy,
I think it might have been 2019, because I think it was when we did that thing in LA where I came out there, and for Cloud9 we did Summoning Insight with Loco Doko.
If
you remember,
I remember that.
Loco Doko invited you and me to a cookout or something that some rioters
the party.
You remember this?
That's a C-double-OK out.
Yeah, it was just in some backyard where, it was just someone's having a barbecue and they had a bunch of beers and all this. And so I go along. And by the way, even though I am an industry mainstay, etc., I'm not the sort of person anyway, if I went to events to see industry people and talk to them. I'm not the person in general who just tries to meet everyone. I meet people who meet me on my terms or who I already know, and that's just my vibe. So I actually know very few rioters. And what I definitely don't know is I don't know what almost any rioter looks like. So there was actually a hilarious scenario happened where when I'm at this cookout thing, and obviously, Monty's talking to some of the rioters, he knows, because remember, one of the things you always have to remember, despite the earlier story that Richard told, is even within Riot or Blizzard or whoever, there are always some cool people who work for these companies. In fact, it's actually one of the most annoying things about being the person who publicly is sort of going, fuck this company. Then the person's sort of going, that's sort of my livelihood. And you're like, listen,
I know, you're sorry, bro.
There's always
damage.
There's always people who agree with you too, and who don't like the way things are being done, and who are actually trying to change it.
No, but it's even why, actually, if you ever go to the events or you go to there'll always be one riot who'll actually always try to sell you the opposite side and go, come on in, I'll show you around. And, actually, people are happy to meet you. Obviously, you won't meet Marc Merrill or some fucking idiot like that. You'll just meet the low-level people. So anyway, at this thing, I don't know this, but almost everyone there, I think, is a rioter. And actually, most of them work in esports or on the game. And so what happens was, while everyone else is doing it, your local Doko's talking probably to a girl. We all know how he does shit, despite appearances. And then Monty's talking. I just do that because I'm in esports anyway. So fucking can't do shit about it. Anyway, then Monty's off talking to some riot he knows, probably from events or whatever. And so I just sit down because there's just a bunch of people playing card games or something like that, right? And a bunch of these guys go oh, hey, you want to play it? None of them even indicate, by the way, they know who I am. And since at the time, I do League of Legends stuff, but I'm more of a CS person, and I just don't know that many industry people in League. So I don't say, hey, I'm Duncan. I just do the thing. Like, if someone makes me like in a social setting, I'll just be like, oh, hey, I'm Duncan. And then they're like, I'm Bill or whatever the fuck, And then they go, do you want to play this game? And they're playing some game. Monty will know this. I don't even remember if it's even a card. Is King's Cup a card game, Monty? It's some sort of drinking game, right?
Yeah. Ring of Fire you're talking about.
It's one where, like, essentially, whoever loses has to drink the whole thing.
Yes,
so it's one of these sorts of things. Look, now this is one of those extreme ones, like a frat pie. It's they're putting a little bit of beer in or something, and it's more for the social to get the game going, basically. So I play this game for like, I don't know, an hour or whatever with these people. I'm just having a normal social setting. We're just having comments back and forth, playing the game or whatever. And at one point, some person walks over, like, to get like a frank off the barbecue or something. And then they do like a mad double take, like, and they look over and they turn to one of the rioters and go, holy shit, is that Thorin? And the guy goes, yeah. And he's doing like a thing with his eyes like this, like, and then the guy goes, does he know who you are? And I go, what are you on about? Like, and they go, oh, he's thinking of something else. And they go, and here's the sad thing about this story. Because I really don't know what any rioters look like. I still don't know who that rioter is. Like, I'm pretty sure, based on the reaction, it was like someone like a big game, one of the game designers that we all like criticize. Listen, I don't think he actually was like Medal or something. I think it was one of those types of guys. So the idea is that he's probably the sort of person that I have, at least by proxy, talked crazy shit on for like 9 years at this point in time. But I have no idea. And actually, to this day, I have no idea who it was. And in that case, fair play. By the way, I don't need to. That's actually all good. That's
fair play to them as well. For just fuck it, let our nuts hang and play a card game.
Yeah, I respect that. That's a mildly nice story. I'll tell now a side of the story I actually never was able to tell before, which is actually around the same sort of time. I think it was actually maybe the same year, even earlier. I'd had that mad thing with Riot, where what happened was I was doing. One of the things I've done in League of Legends is I have always tried to champion the LPL, the Chinese league, because to me it was always so obvious. It had a crazy talent depth, and it was actually usually just the second best region after Korea, even though, especially because of the early game and there was more parity, it was always pushed that, like, Europe was the better. So, but that was because in Europe, what we always do is just take the number one team and pretend that's the whole region. And we ignore that the third place team get banged in every fucking tournament and sometimes win no games. So China was always actually slept on. And so basically, because I've done so much like promotion of the LPL over the years, I also knew a lot of the people who worked at the LPL, the Clement Chews, the Razes, etc., all the people I've worked with on podcasts and in the Western scene. And so at the time when they were doing almost the end of the actual official broadcast in English on the LPL, where they could actually go to the LAN finals and they could have like a proper desk, it wasn't just a stream. It definitely isn't now, where it's like a community effort and you get paid nothing. At the time, obviously, this is not actually a thing in League of Legends. A lot of the people who work in the English language part of League of Legends care only about LCK if they're hardcore, or just the West, like they do LCS and LEC, because that's where all the fans are. That's where you get famous. That's where it's cool to be at the event. You get the status and you make Post Malone or whatever the fuck people think you do when you go to one of these finals. So actually, what was cool was basically these guys from the LPL heard that I was already going to China to do like a Star Ladder event. It was this one that was like early in 2019 that was won by Navi, if you remember. And basically, they'd already heard I was going to be there. So they were like, oh, if you're going to be there anyway, why don't you just stay like another week? And then we'll make it secret. We won't announce it till right before, but you can be the host of the LPL finals. Like when we have the finals where it's the top 4 teams, essentially this was their whole idea, like some actual wrestling shit, like some Jericho shit. The idea would be, the lights would go down. Then when the camera came on, I'd just be there hosting the LPL. Like, welcome, I'm Thorin, and welcome to the LPL finals. This is it would be, I believe this sounded so dope. And I even told them when they said all of this, I said, bro, Riot Games is going to let me work the LPL finals. And they were telling me, listen, what's it got to do with Riot Games? Wait, this is Chinese League of Legends. Like, Tencent and whatever Riot China, they've signed off on it. Like, my boss says we can do it. Like, he says, you're here, just come along next time. And literally, I went to China, I did the CS event, and something mental, bro, like 2 days before this LPL finals, it basically gets back-channeled that, like, someone at Riot Global has basically just had, like, a piece of paper come across their desk, like, with all the information, and all their job is to do, I assume, is just go, right, there's the old John Hancock and the stamp, and off it goes. And then they've done that, and they've gone, whoa, a horse! And then they've done that thing where they've scrambled all the... And basically, I've just been told by a thing like, this is how you know it's bad, Richard. Instead of them all being like, hey, oh, you're here, I saw you've done the CS event, like, meet up with us, we'll all go for some drinks and beers, and we'll get ready for the event. They say that, but in a really sort of tone of like, hey, let's get a drink tonight, shall? But in this weird way, like this tone's like, we need to talk about something with the finals. And when I go out, they basically all have to tell me. Oh, by the way, I'm also not as fussed about working league. I've done about fucking 8 world championships in CS at this time. Because they're thinking this is like my big moment. I'm going to be crestfallen. They're also doing it like almost like some intervention, like I'm going to top myself if I get the schemes. So when they have to tell me, I hate to do it to you like this, but basically the words come down, you can't do the event. And I'm like, what, at all? And they're like, yeah, you can't even appear at the event. You can't even come to the event. And I'm like, what? And then they're going, yeah, listen, it's fucked up because, it's true, my boss had signed off on it and gone all the way up, but you're not going to believe this. Like, essentially, at the very top, Riot Global, someone's just put the kibosh on it and said they can't happen, basically. And it's not the case. So here's what's funny. Later that year was actually an event. I think you were even at this one too, Richard. It was the one that was the Inven Global Esports Conference. We all went to do talks. You did some sort of a talk. Well, I think all three of us did a talk, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because I didn't mind, if you remember. I'll say the joke, it's aged really well. Mine was, you have to realise, I am ridiculous because I've seen too many. If I see things in movies, I think it'd be cool to try that in real life. So I've never done like a public speech in like a hall with all fucking, students and famous people. So when I went my speech about, the history of esports journalism and how it connected to the industry were, when I started my speech, I went up there and I pretended like I was like some sort of like fucking legendary lecturer. So when I went up, for example, there was a guy in the front row who had like bleached blonde hair and he was a bit tall. And I was like, oh, nice to see Milo Yiannopoulos is here.
I remember
Richard
that.
just even go like, I could even see him just turn away like, fuck. We all cancelled because of that joke. And this is at 2019, by the way, where that's how mad itchy joke. I think he might have been cancelled already at this point in time. So anyway, I do this speech, and you'll see where I'm going with this. This is one of those events. Again, I'm not on the circuit where you go to all those conferences. It's actually the only conference I've ever been to for esports. At the after party for this conference, we're all just in like, some fucking, I don't know, a hotel lobby or something where we're all having drinks. And it's one of those ones where, it's not like a full one where you have like 200 people. It's where it gets pared down and you've got like the 30 people who all know each other and are all like in the industry, the CS people there. And there's a whole bunch of people. It's around, I think it was like 100 miles from LA or something. It was like not that far away. You could drive to this place. And basically, it might have even been on Anaheim. I'm not sure. I don't know the distances. And basically at this like after party, this is where it connects to the story. A person comes up to me, and I won't say who they are in this particular case, by the way. I'll shield it a little bit. It's actually with the best stories. You should just shield the part of the people involved. It's the story that's funny. A person comes up to me, and I've never met this person ever, and they introduce themselves to me, actually, as though they're like a hobbyist and a fan who's kind of a bit like me. Like, they're like a hobbyist person who's into esports history, and they know a lot about it. And they're telling me all this stuff that's true. Like, they know all about the old lands in MLG and fucking Quake and so. And I'm going like, who is this? I've never heard of someone else who was in it, because you'd think by now I'd have heard of that, or you'd have just sought me out already in the 20 odd years in the industry. So this person basically does all this, right? And then this is in front of the whole group. That's how they enter the group. They enter in and go, oh, hey, Thorin, I actually have done things like that. Like, they do that thing where you start talking to them and the other group breaks off. And then once the other group totally breaks off, I don't know, Monty Fiflar and a bunch of other people, once that happens, this person, right, just turns to me like this. And then suddenly, like I'm in Mission Impossible, just goes, actually, I'm this person. I'm from Riot Games. This is a back channel. You went through the wrong person within Riot. And I'm going, what? And by the way, I'm already had like 3 drinks in on this. Like, fuck it. Am I asleep already? Just hallucinating. This whole thing's happening. So then the person's going, I'm going, what do you mean the wrong person? I said, all I did, mate, is just get asked by the LPL to do this fucking finals. They basically tell me like, no, you have to understand, they really didn't like that at the top. Like, when they found that out, you were never going to get to do the event. Like, just the idea you thought you could, come in and do that with who you are and all the things you've said. And I'm going, listen, this is another thing as well. This is why I don't do industry stuff. Already, 3 drinks in, I'm going, what do you mean the things I've done? You fucking Riot Games, someone's doing all the sexual songs, you're going to tell me. So I'm already, like, the temperature's right, but he's going, no, I don't agree. I actually like you. I think you're really good.
I'm on your side.
Some people in Riot do like you. You have to understand this isn't all company-wide thing, but the right people, they feel like, it's a brand risk. They don't really involve you. And I'm going, okay, right, well, I didn't do the event, so it doesn't fucking matter, does it? And then the guy goes, no, but listen to what I'm saying. You just went through the wrong means. There's a way you can do this, and we can all win. By the way, as soon as you can hear that phrase, it's like, fucking hell, where are we going here? How are you and me, you Riot Games and me, Thorin, going to get a collective win? Like, so listen to this. The guy basically tells me, it's not impossible. You can do Riot events. And I go, listen, no offense, but I've actually never tried to work Riot events. Like, I've never even done an IM. I've never done a DreamHack in it, mate. Even though I worked in those companies. I only did this because I like the LPL. I like the people who work the LPL. And they asked me to do it. And again, I didn't apply. They asked me to do it, sir. This was an invite to an event. And he goes, no, but you've got to understand, it's also, we can't let someone like you on the broadcast who's criticizing Riot, and you're always so critical of everything. In fact, sometimes you're even insulting with how you criticize on social media. But I'm going to propose to you a path for, he had all the fucking terminology down, mate. A path forwards whereby we can build the relationship. And then it would be, we arrive at a place, whatever, you do all the fucking American therapy talk. And basically, what this guy presents to me, and this is so mental, because again, by the way, speaking of rioters, not knowing who rioters are, do these people not pay any attention to who I am? Listen to the deal they present me with, Richard. Right, so I've gone from never even tried to be on Riot things, never been hired or anything. I've never even appeared on OGN and LCK. I've been there, mate, and Monty was working the fucking event. Like, I have never done anything officially in League beyond my podcasts and my content. I go to this thing, and he basically tells me that they're not going to let me do the LPL Finals of a split, early in the year, not even like the big finals and the whole thing, just like the first split of the year. But instead, this is the deal they essentially back channel to me. They go, if you don't criticize Riot for 2 years on social media, maybe you can do Worlds. And I remember just sitting going, what the fuck even is that offer? I'm not even trying to do Worlds.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, but he was sort of doing that as if, if he's been recorded. So, but you could tell he meant you will get to do Worlds if you don't. Even then, by the way, I imagine he meant like one match or the beginning of it. But what he didn't realize was so mental about that was, 1, 2 years is a fucking long time to not say anything about all the... Also, by the way, the timing on this is mad sucks, because it's like 2019. Imagine all the shit that's happened in Riot, like 2020, Neon. So you all know, it would have been outrageous. Me just sitting there biting my tongue. The whole time. It's already totally absurd. I know, it's totally absurd. And then also,
by the way, guys, it's not $1 million payday to do Worlds. They pay you shit. So what's the point?
Secondly, if there's anything that's been established in my career, I am willing to take the stupidest deal of all time, which is actually, I will just give up thousands and thousands of dollars and respect it just to do a tweet. I think I've pretty much made that established at this point in time, whether it helps me or not. And then thirdly, the whole idea was, if you think it's mad that the lights go down, they come on, I'm hosting the LPL. What would it be like if I appear on Worlds? And here he is, it's Thorin on Worlds. Why is he on Worlds? Anyway, that's just an example of how mad he is. I've never told
right next to the augmented reality dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look at the...
By the way, what a world, though. What a world Riot is. What a world.
What even is this like concept of like issuing like almost like hostage demands of people in
it's
this
so
industry?
Crazy, isn't it?
It's like, again, it was exactly what the fucking Reddit mods did to me. I mean, can you imagine committing this in writing? Right, they emailed my editor at the Daily Dot and made a 4-point demand that included I wasn't allowed to criticize them or publicly state that they'd banned my work, which they had. I mean, it's just mad. Like, who the fuck are you fucking plebs? Like, get a bath, you fucking smelly cunts. What are you talking about? Like, it's just unbelievable. So yeah, it's happened all the time in esports. People will just give you these like fucking insane ultimatums that are completely unenforceable. And also as well, all right, I mean, like, put it this way, let's say I wanted to do Worlds. I would be like, okay, no criticism for 2 years. Let's get that in writing. And then I won't criticize you for 2 years, and then I get to do Worlds. And then as soon as I've done Worlds, I'm going to be like, here's how I got to do Worlds.
Yeah, that's also the silliest part. There's what's mad, Richard. In that analogy, I'm the scorpion and they're the frog. If you just promise not to sting me, though, until I get across the river, and then as you say, mate, the second you piss me off, the video's going to be even better now. I've got all this info about the fucking backtrack. I love it, you mad fuck. Obviously, sports season never ends, does it? Because all the sports go throughout the year. And that applies to our sponsor, Prize Picks, because right now there's all sorts of sports. You watch women's basketball in America. The NBA will be starting up again soon. If you don't know, LeBron's gone to the 76ers on some like cheap contract. They've got like an all-star team of players. He's got to have a last run there. You've got, obviously, football will be coming back in a month or two. They're already doing the pre-gate season stuff. The American football will come back soon enough as well with all those last chance rosters and the newer people coming along. There's so many different angles you can take. I have to say, in general, I've never cared about women's basketball, but I actually do sometimes watch the highlights of that Caitlin Clark woman. I like shooters. She's actually pretty good. She's actually got like kind of a cool game to her. And the cool thing about Prize Picks is it's really easy. All you do is you just pick more or less on 2 to 6 stats projections. So if it was a Caitlin Clark one, it's like, will she make more than 3 3-pointers in this game? All you do is have a look at her form, think about what you saw in the last match. Is it more or less? It's quite simple. You don't have to pick a number. You're just doing more or less. And then if that comes in, it comes in. Also, you can actually do their official partner of the NBA now also, and they have a million different angles that work for this one, which is you can do the early cash out where when your player starts hot, the game doesn't even have to finish or necessarily even win. You can sometimes cash out. It's so easy to do. You can do it in loads of states in the USA. And of course, we have a little deal for you, which is if you go and download the app today and use code Horseman, you can get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. So you download the app today, use code Horseman to get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app.
Yeah.
And could you even imagine, this is where they really didn't think it through, Richard, the second you actually let me on a Riot Games broadcast like Worlds, anything I then say about Riot Games is 10 times more powerful afterwards. It's why, I'll tell you who actually, the Saudis need Terminator technology, mate. They need to go back in time because the idea they've now associated with the Esports Awards, that gave Richard 3 awards and literally had a banner at the 2019 one of me in a tux saying redefining, something like redefining the industry. It's just me. Like, that's aged so poorly for you right now when you're then trying to pretend we don't exist. Like, you just wish that never happened in the first place.
What was really funny? What was really funny with that, and I don't know if I said this on the previous show, but not right. So I obviously I was pretty involved at the Esports Awards. I don't mind saying it.
Well, we all were.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, I was on. So there was a panel that you had to vote for the awards. And obviously, I recused myself from anything I thought was a conflict of interest. So I had no say on journalism, despite probably being the most qualified there. Because Duncan had bailed by this point, and there was just basically me. So but they would go, "Hey, Richard, what do you think of this for publication of the year?" I can't speak on it. I have to recuse myself. So that's how a lot of the conversations went. But then also there was a panel within a panel. And that panel were the people that came up with like essentially the rubric, like how do we measure, who deserves the awards and who doesn't, what should be considered, what is a rookie? We're getting on that Matt Walsh shit. What is a rookie? We had to define all of this stuff. So that was what I did all of that. And so when they said, right, the first thing that happened was the Live Golf sponsorship. And they were doing some content where it was like, I think Nadeshot went out to play, he's a big golfer. They did a bunch of stuff that was promoting Live Golf. And I said at the time, I hope this isn't going to be a trend because you do know Live Golf is owned by the Saudis. And they're like, it's just a really big sponsor for us. Like, it's a big deal. Obviously, we do our event in Vegas, big golfing culture, whatever. So I didn't think too much of it. And then, of course, when they were essentially folding in with the EWC and we're going to then run the awards in Riyadh, obviously, they came to me and said, right, Rich, listen, this is coming down the pipe. I was just laughing at them. I was really insulting and rude, probably. And obviously I quit immediately. And that was the end of that. I told everyone, like, I'm out, can't be part of this anymore. And then, hilariously, the day that happened, coincidentally, I disappeared from the Hall of Fame, the Lifetime Recipient Awards. My page just got deleted. Nobody else's. My page, my photo, and I was like, guys, like you did give me a Lifetime Achievement Award. Like, you can't walk that back. And they were like, oh no, we're sorry. What happened was when we removed your permissions for the panel and the super secret panel, we accidentally bloody deleted all existence of you from the website as well. Yeah, that actually happened. And I was just like, I don't know. Did I tweet about it or something? I probably did. I was still on my Twitter bullshit when this happened, at the birth of the Saudi takeover of the Death Star. But it was just like, fucking, I mean, how ridiculous is that? So, I mean, obviously as well, like, I don't mind talking about it now. Those awards, I literally said in a meeting where it was like, 40 of the panelists that were voting on these things, because we had to keep going out and getting people that were experts in the field. If you ever won an award for anything related to mobile esports, it's essentially one guy. Nobody else knows anything about it. Like, how the fuck would I know? I'm going with him. So anyway, they were always expanding the expertise pool and were bringing people in. And I remember this is before the Saudis took over. It was just the Riot Games Awards, Like, ultimately, the first thing that made me break with them was the Marc Merrill Lifetime Achievement Awards. Where it was like they just said, like, they asked the panel within the panel, because they're the people that vote on the Lifetime Achievement Awards. It's not the general panel. They asked us, like, who do you like for the Lifetime Achievement Awards? We submitted our votes. Marc Merrill did not get it. All of a sudden, Marc Merrill was on the list. The panel said, can we have a specific vote on Marc Merrill? Because I don't think maybe you can make an argument he gets a Lifetime Achievement Award 5 years from now. Maybe he has.
Well, the thing is that he wasn't even he wasn't even directly responsible for Riot Esports. Like, that's what's so weird about the whole thing.
He made he didn't even make free to play. He secured the funding for a free-to-play game, a really bad MOBA. If you remember 2009 League, it was dog shit. I mean, this is the thing. Everyone's on this League of Legends Classic, which isn't classic. But by the way, you wouldn't really want classic. You would want, a little bit forward from the original. But, I mean, Marc Merrill, for me, just wasn't a contender. Because, there was all these, like, greats of, like, all of these games, and we're only giving out like 5 a year. So where would you ballot Marc Merrill? Certainly not. I think it was like fourth.
Well, it was really that, before you got anybody at Riot ever. So ignore Marc Merrill or somebody else. The amount of catch-up you would have to do in the ballots. There were just so many people before you even come to the first important Riot person in the timeline of esports.
Yes, and I said we should double it. I said, why don't we put it up to 10? Because we've got so much to catch up. And they said, well, if we did 10 a year, it would extend the ceremony. Right? Because you understand as well, like, the Lifetime Achievement Award people, who you would think would be the most honored, they stopped putting them on the main show. Because
they had like a private, they had like a private.
Yeah, you got to give your speech at a dinner. You didn't get to give your speech.
To be fair, that dinner
stream.
was dope. That dinner was dope.
Oh, listen, they put
it was
on
really
a good
fun
spread.
for people in the industry.
Yeah. But obviously, like, for me, the people getting the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Esports Awards should take precedent over his fucking some streamer. His Asmongold. Like, we invited him. Like, why? Like, why is that taking up the airtime? Oh, because that's what gets clicks. That's what gets eyeballs. And it sort of did become a bit of a streamer award kind of thing towards the end, which was crazy because they've got their own streamer awards. Why even try and compete? We're esports. It should be the Esports Awards. They completely lost sight of what it was. But anyway, they brought the Marc Merrill vote to us and said, okay, you can have a vote on Marc Merrill, because they thought that the panel within the panel would somehow just fall in line. And I made the point in that meeting. I was like, there's this person we're leaving out, who was on the list this year. There's this person that was put forward this year, and there's this person that was put forward this year. If any of those people were to miss out on Marc Merrill, that's a travesty. But obviously, I'm not naming who they were because we all know what happened, and it would hurt their feelings probably. But then we put the vote. So understand, the panel initially didn't vote for Marc Merrill. Marc Merrill was added to the list. We then said, can we just have a vote on the Marc Merrill inclusion? We then voted to not have Marc Merrill. And we got vetoed again and told we have to have Marc Merrill. So it was the complete illusion of choice. And that was basically it. I mean, you know, I made the point on the way out. I said, now, if you want to win an esports award, you either have to be Saudi connected or Riot connected. And Riot are connected to Saudi now. So it's all one big Saudi pat on the back. You know, Duncan was tweeting about it the other day. Don't ask, you know, a woman
Well,
their
it's like
age.
when Falcons won Team of the Year.
Well, Org of the Year, yeah.
Org of the Year,
it was all, you got to be specific with that. You know, Org of the Year. The best org, just the greatest org of all time. So yeah, that was just a whole fucking mess. And here's the thing as well. The worst part about all of that is that like it wasn't even a surprise for Marc Merrill. It was like this curated experience where basically Riot had said to the Esports Awards, you know, we have to really consider about whether or not we send our people to your awards show, as if they're a big draw. For some reason, the Esports Awards thought they were, then essentially said, oh, well, listen, we'll sure come up with something for you, Mr. Riot, sir. And they went away, and what they came up with was, why don't we give Marc Merrill a Lifetime Achievement Award? And then they went, that got fed back to Riot, and they're like, yeah, that would be acceptable. And they, by the way, you would be ashamed to say this at an award show. Imagine, by the way, if like at the Oscars, I suppose, let's use that as an example, if essentially the people all sat around and said, look, we've got to give it to DiCaprio. Like, we just have to. They've paid too much money. And everyone else is like, yeah, but like fucking, I don't know, I'll do one to trigger Duncan. Timothy Chalamet killed it this year. Like, we're not giving it to him. Nah, it's got to be DiCaprio this year. They've paid all that money. That's essentially what we got told. I mean, like explicitly at the awards panel. Like, we have to give a Lifetime Achievement Award to Marc Merrill or Riot won't come. And so Riot, and then Marc Merrill's like, gee, gosh golly, this is such a surprise. When we start, then off comes the fucking speech about how they invented esports in the year of 2010 and you know, the rest is history. I suppose he had to get the award because esports didn't exist before Marc Merrill did it. So I wonder if they'll ever bring. I wonder what's going to happen when the Saudis drop the esports awards. Like, what do you reckon?
Well, I think probably it should have just died at that point in time. You know, if you can't survive without the Saudis, what's your next plan? Like, you just have to give it up at that point in time.
I actually liked winning those awards. They meant something to me.
Well, that's because it was actually a functional award
to me.
I do think those awards were good and important for the industry, but they were also drifting away from actual esports because then it became like streamer of the year and like these people have nothing to fucking do with esports. Like, why it's called the Esports Awards? Why are we doing like streaming content? They were always just chasing the next thing to get attention. It was never like, let's actually make this a centerpiece of the industry. It's esports is the hotness. We're on this now, and now we're going to be on the streamers and like the content creators and everything that has to do with not esports whatsoever.
I mean, look at this. I'm on the website now. EWC Players Choice Award.
I mean, one of the problems, put it this way, when I was involved with Esports Awards, I had many of these conversations with head people, including like the top people there. And basically, they explained to me, this is how all major industry awards work in every other field as well. Like, basically, it's all about getting companies to buy the table and then attend the event. And then with that, you bring the streamers because here's the thing they said. They said, essentially, there are streamers that won't even win the award, but you need to have them nominated so that then they make the social media buzz, that their fans get involved. involved, and then it all raises the profile of the event, and then maybe they also come along to the gala and take the pictures, and they're part of the, and all this is, they said, is literally key to like the economics of the event. And then the main problem became that, yes, as you're saying, most of those streamers aren't esports streamers. Like, they essentially are like variety streamers that happen to play the game because it's flavor of the month or it's a popular game now. And so I can tell you, without, even though I don't even particularly think this is as much the case with like the HLTV awards in Counter-Strike, they even do their own version of this. I'll give you the obvious example. They have an award called Content Creator of the Year. I have never even been nominated, never mind won it. And they themselves have the gall to explain that that's because I don't qualify as a content creator. Now, if you don't know, I'm the most prolific content creator in the history of the Counter-Strike franchise. I have something like
what's their
4,000
definition
videos.
of content?
That's the point I'm going to get to. They just mean people like 3Clicks Philip who just do big YouTube videos about Counter-Strike, but not mainly the esports side, just like, you know, the game itself and bug things. So essentially, they just created an award not to celebrate journalism and content in the esport. They did it just to get big people, the only Pixels of the world, although obviously now he's involved with esports, but more people who are just tangentially involved with Counter-Strike or the game, because these are giant figures that you want to attend the gala and you want to be part of this. So look, I get it now. I know the way this all works. I'm just jaded in that sense. I understand. That's why, if you notice, I don't give a fuck about Oscars. I understand that it's already a thing behind the scenes where, pretty this weird, the Ballon d'Or's like this. Like, the joke of the Ballon d'Or is, it actually is also based on things like if your team pushes you. So famously, for example, when your team knows you're going to leave at the end of the year, they might just push a different player in your organization to win the Ballon d'Or instead. So it's also the same with movie production studios. The implication is they buy you one. When you've done the right things and you've got checked all the boxes, they either buy you one, or as Richard says, eventually the panel just goes, we can't have Scorsese, we can't have DiCaprio not win him. They just give you one when there's any viable reason to get it, even though it'll never be one of your better films. So this is just the way all these things work, sadly.
I mean, I'll say this as well. If you look at the link I've just sent you, on their Esports Awards About page, it's a photo of Marc Merrill getting his award. Like,
classic.
You gotta be fucking kidding me, guys. Like, this is so ridiculous at this point. And then, obviously, like I said, I don't even know what's going on with the awards this year. I haven't heard anything about them. Like, we should be getting close. It's like August.
I'm almost certain
they announced some categories the other day.
I saw like some of the people, pretty sweet, some very famous league people I saw were put up for as usual.
Let's see.
Sorry, certain fence to be meant. We don't need to bring that up. On a different year, I might have a little rant for you. Don't worry about it. I haven't got anything this time. It's all fine. It's all fine.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you're right. It's just kind of, I guess, but I do follow them. Why am I not? And they follow me. Why am I not getting their tweets? I haven't seen these.
Another thing that's another problem that award has as well is now, it also feels like that award has become just the who's who of who's involved with the Saudis, and you just get to win an award within that tiny little group. But my problem is this. Even though I get it, I get that. Here's the real problem. If you're not in our incredibly insular, niche esports world and you win Broadcast Talent of the Year, your family will care about that. Your community will care about that. People will go, wow, you're number one in your job. So unfortunately, to a lot of these people, even though they know it's half fake and that you're basically just being rewarded for the Saudi regime loyalty, they also know that that's still something they care about on some level. Like, they want that little trinket to go up on the mantelpiece. They want to put it on the resume. It's just big for people.
How's this real? Magnus Carlsen, Esports Personality of the Year.
Of course.
Because now the Saudis say that chess is an esport, so that's what it is.
By the way, best part as well, like the FGC thing, people in chess 10 years ago would have gone fucking mental if you'd have said chess was an esport. They would have gone out of their minds. But when you can win awards, of course it is. By the way, in what context is he in esports?
Well, I mean, also Magnus Carlsen he was one of the lead proselytizers for the Wanderer of Saudi Arabia. I mean, like, he's been going to Riyadh for years. He was immediately in on the Esports World Cup. He was like on the panels that they used to have out there when it was back when it was Gamers 8. He just fucking loves it. He just loves Saudi money. But yeah, Esports Personality of the Year, Magnus Carlsen.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't even know what these awards are anymore.
Guys, like, come the fuck on, bro. this is mental.
Oh, and also, if people don't know, this isn't my story. You could go look it up. It's been said many, many, many times. A lot of people who are streamers and personality figures have said that they've literally had that conversation with the awards where they're like, hey,
if I
come
don't
along
win,
to
I'm
the
not coming.
awards. You've probably, you're really going to want to come. And they go, look, I either don't care or I'm actually just busy that weekend. I'm sorry, I can't arrive. And then they turn it on and then someone else wins the award. And then they find out through a back channel, like, oh, you would have won if you'd have come. Which again makes the award like, what is the award that I appeared at the fucking venue? What is this award for? This is just madness. Because again, I actually think, by the way, this is an area those events are stupid. You actually want a decent smattering, let's say a quarter to a third of people not to attend and to send in the video thing, because that implies there's so much status to your award, you still want to receive it. And it's not just that it's rigged and you have to attend it. You almost want to do it in the same way as if you're a dictator. Just win by 70% of the vote, you lunatic. Don't win by 95%. That's too obvious. Just win by a majority. It's already absurd you never have 70%. They always over-egg the pudding, sadly.
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't even see that they were out. Well, I'm looking forward to Magnus Carlsen, the face of esports, of course. Looking forward to that. I mean, it's just sad because, as I said, what'll probably end up happening at some point is when the Saudi money starts swirling down the toilet, the first thing EWC are going to do is they're going to eschew all the unnecessary projects. We know this. We've seen what the PIF has done to ESL in general. They like to run a pretty tight ship. And for all of the talk about they've got an infinite amount of money, they don't really suffer anything that isn't profitable at all. And so obviously an award show is going to go. They've got the Esports Awards have a very limited amount of time to find a partner that can fill the void the EWC is essentially going to leave. And the thing is, at that point, you're just going to have this like really stupid period of time where the awards were essentially meaningless. And what we're saying is, prior to that, the awards were good, and now the awards are good. And then in the middle, you've got this fucked up thing. It's like they really have sort of killed the legitimacy of the award, which is fucking sad because I won a bunch of them. So, like, again, Saudi won't let me have anything, mate. It's actually insane. Did I tell you about them opening? I had to leave my job as a fucking professor.
No.
I didn't tell you this.
What happened with this?
No.
Oh, boys. This is how I know none of this is real. This is why I can't get flustered, Duncan. It's clearly a cosmic joke on me, all of this. You're not even real. You're just part of it, right? So, obviously, let's go over everything Saudi Arabia has done to Richard Lewis, right? First of all, my football club, they bought that. Took that away from me. If I'm a principal man, I can't support my lifetime club anymore. I have to
also, the banter of that one is, this must be where you get extra triggered, Richard. Of the have unlimited money. Newcastle Football Club still sell all the good players. If we have unlimited money, can I at least get the Richard of the good players? Again, if I'm going to be Falcons, can I at least have Nico Mullison? What are you doing?
Literally, we sold all of our best players in this transfer window, and they've turned around and gone, that's going to be really good for the financial fair play rules. Why are we playing by the rules? Like, we're theoretically the wealthiest club in the world. Can we break the rules like Man City did? Are we going to do it? No. All right, cool, great. So when we get corruption, we actually don't be corrupt. Perfect. Love that. Anyway, so they bought Newcastle United. That's the end of my relationship with that football club. I can't buy a ticket to a game anymore. I can't buy a jersey anymore. Can't give them any money. Can't watch a pay-per-view anymore. Otherwise, I'm a massive hypocrite and I'm fucking giving to the Saudi regime. So, all right, fine. You've got my football club. You've got my industry that I specialized in. I can't work in the element, any of the runoff from that, never do an Esports World Cup, never going to do any of these, all Saudi, right? Okay, fine. So my hobby and my job that was also a hobby. You've got all of that, right? Okay, fine. You've took all of that from me. I am but a shell of a man. But at least I can lecture, people about sports integrity. I've got that. Well, no. What ended up happening was at the University in New Haven in Connecticut, we got a message in the faculty group chat or whatever that Saudi Arabia was going to fund basically a division in the university And you would also have the opportunity to lecture in Riyadh if you wanted to. And they were going to have a University of New Haven.
I bet you actually did think you were in a simulation when this was happening, because it's like they're like buying the fucking your uni just to
Mate,
get you.
Someone even said to me, Rich, would you be interested in?
Man alive, why are you saying that?
Would you be interested in lecturing in Riyadh? I'm like, do you know me? Like, do you know who I am? They're like, no, I couldn't believe it.
I don't think I'd be leaving Riyadh if I lectured there.
Yeah. So I can't even have that. Can't even be an adjunct professor anymore. That's gone. Saudi have took that. I'm probably missing some other stuff out. I mean, like, it's just it has to be my, when my mother dies, they're going to pay for the funeral and I have to not go. Like, where are we going with this? Like, it's fucking mental. Like, I like academia, you've took that away from me. You've took my job away from me, took my hobby away from me, took my sports away from me. I can't have anything because of Saudi Arabia. And you know what, Duncan? Some days I do just think, just convert to Islam and then...
Will that make it all go away?
Yeah, then it all goes away.
Okay.
Just on that alhamdulillah, all of that.
You'll
stuff.
instantly be literally the award-winning Muslim Journalist of the Year.
No, but I mean, think about it. Think about it. That they would put me out everywhere.
Yeah.
I'd be there on the mic, wouldn't I? Saying, listen, guys, I was totally wrong. My eyes have been opened up.
Exactly. I was ignorant.
Yeah, exactly. I was ignorant.
I've learned so much about their culture.
Yes, imagine how much money I would make on that.
Did you know they drive now?
I don't imagine how much money I would make if I did the grift. I've said this before. There are two pivots I can do to make an absolute fortune right now. One is just go in with a chudder sphere, say I was wrong, the Odyssey is woke.
Easily,
right, make a ton of money, become the next critical drinker, can do that. Or I convert to Islam and become the mouthpiece for Saudi Arabia in esports. I'd have Ralph's job tomorrow. I'd be the new Ralph Rijkaard. So, but no, alas, I live like this. So there you go.
What's sad is, do you want to know? I'll tell you a little side story that connects this all together.
Okay, good.
At the end of 2019, at the Esports Awards, the last one I ever attended, was one of the ones where, think about when this is. I'm going to guess off the top of my head, that's like November of 2019 or something. It'll be like October, November, end of the year. So think about what happened in early 2020 and how everything changed and all our careers changed and the awards changed. And I've never been back since. I actually remember at the after party, it was just a particularly good after party where, let's just say, the right chemicals were flowing, the right people were there. You're getting that thing that I can't lie. I can see why people become dickheads when they're famous. You're getting those legendary, massive streamers and famous players now coming up. Oh, I've always respected you. Oh, your work was pivotal to me getting into the industry when I was young. You're getting all that like bullshit glad handing and all that. And when this happened, I remember even just having a moment where I was a bit lucid and I just thought, you know what? Maybe this industry can be saved. You know what? It's kind of cool we have these functions where we can all get together with all the other great people in the industry and all just realise we are all sort of, pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
And a few months later, certain things happened around Wuhan, China. And the rest is history. Here I am doing this show now. Not bitter though, don't worry. Also can never be mentioned by the Esports Awards.
I know,
if anything, that's how bitter I am. I'm glad they took away the whole journalism thing, because that doesn't matter that I don't get nominated. See, I've got the other side of it, Rich. Now it's not humiliating to not be nominated and then have any random person put like Wooloo in there or something like now it just doesn't exist at all. Cool.
I mean, it's
there never was a journalist of the year. There never was.
Exactly, man. They never, the funny thing with that was as well, they were already making, I would have been the last winner to make a speech on the main show. Of
course.
Because they changed it after that we were on
there's
the
another reason you couldn't have it, could you? Because obviously that's the moment when someone would try and make a political statement. And the one thing they don't want is someone to ever do that again. You don't want an open mic to the world.
I know. Well, another thing that aged terribly. There I am getting a standing ovation from Dr. Disrespect. Yep. So, well, time just changes things, doesn't it?
The doc. By the way, if people don't know as well, that's another one of those ones I love. 1 second before he got outed for that, everyone in the industry was fucking loving this guy, mate. People were lined up to blow him at these fucking events. And it was outrageous. Everyone wanted to be his pal, his friend. So 1 second later, oh, scum, I'd never was personally involved in it. Give me a break. That's just what the industry's like. And every few years there's someone like that.
It's the fakest. It's the fakest crock of shit of all time. I've always said it. It's like, right, the saying how they say politics is Hollywood for ugly people. And it's like esports is fucking Hollywood for stupid, ugly people. Like it's just a spectacularly dumb industry. And there we go. We've done it, Monty. We've done the episode as you themed it.
Well, here's the thing, Monty. What if I was someone who already or was planning to get a premium subscription?
Wow.
What would I maybe get after watching this episode?
Well, you might get some Q&As if you ask questions in the Discord.
Yeah, we got to do that. Yeah.
So
no, we want to do that, Richard. We want to reward.
We want
to
do that.
Their support and such. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a great segue. Unfortunately, it will not be happening right away because I have a flight in the morning, so I need to for special things. But I am going to make a lot of premium content around this project I've got going on the next couple of weeks. So look forward to that. But yes, the premium content in general, we are dedicated to doing that, and also we're going to do some of the Q&As for Foreplay as well for movie questions.
So submit questions to that. But just make sure in the question thread you just put that one's obviously like a generalized one. Just put like it's Foreplay and the name of the show because that's the key thing
there's a TV and film channel.
It's just going to be 20 iterations of Thorin, why do you glaze Christopher Nolan? Don't you realize?
Oh, there's something there like that. Don't worry about it. Yeah, of course.
You too can be yelled at by Thorin, which I know you guys secretly enjoy.
I'll give you a little secret tip because I do also notice you have to sort of coach the audience that ask questions. Don't say, why do you think this thing is better? Like, actually ask, what do you think of it? That's a way more interesting question. Again, if there's one sort of content I wish died so badly because shorts content is just all this. It's like, wow, famous football player gives his top 5. He just says 5 names, no reasons given. That's nothing, mate. If he instead was even one player, we give the reason. That's fucking fire. That's brilliant content. So don't ask it. Why didn't you add this one in the arc? That's really irrelevant, bro. Instead, how about just say it? Since you didn't talk about that film, what do you think of it? What's your angle? Is there a thing that you could have done? That'd be a really cool one. Ask some questions like that. We'll enjoy answering them, I'm telling you.
Yeah, actually, there are some good questions in there, and so we will get around to that too. And the Q&As. We know you guys like those, so we will keep making them. It's just there are extenuating circumstances this time about this project that we're doing, which I think you guys will find to be very interesting. So hopefully that'll make up for it. But in any case, we'll hit you guys up in a couple weeks, hopefully after TI, and we get some more information on the Dota scandal. But we'll have another show for you then.
Who knows? Because it's already claimed 3 players. Maybe this is a big sweep is coming down.
It's actually true. The fallout could increase from here for sure.
Yeah, because keep in mind, I don't know if this TaiLung situation has involved ESIC, but ESIC do offer a snitch reward program. Like they reduce sentences based on cooperation, essentially. So, if people start snitching, could get interesting.
Well, there you go. Until then, guys, as usual, esports
Stay snitching.
We'll see you next time. Stay snitching.